Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today. Oh my, we are here today. And Mike Harrison is on the line. Mike, are you there? Mike, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you in the world, mind you. In the world, we need more Mike Harrisons in the world, slinging that modified up on the damn wall at Gateway like you were. I mean, if everybody else is doing that, we might have had a show. No, I'm just playing, but. I have pre-warned Mr. Mike Harrison that there is a situation that has come up, and it has to be addressed. First of all, before we are going to get into talking with Mike Harrison. He may even have some opinions on this. You never know. You never know. But this is something that's been happening over the last few days, this whole situation on Twitter with one of these who like Conor McGregor in the deal, who the is this guy, you know? And I was sent this tweet by a racer in the dirt world. Did you see this tweet? Question mark. And I said, I've been trying to ignore it because that guy is a nobody. I'd rather keep him that way. But at this point, we have to address it. So the tweet that is sent here, the tweet that is sent is this one right here by, I'm sure Mike's never heard of him. Landon Huffman, have you heard this guy?
I can't say that I have.
Okay, thank you. Have you heard of Max McLaughlin?
Yes, sir.
Okay, nepotism monarchy, I'm sure. But regardless, the guy sits here and puts a tweet out and says, the dirt versus asphalt is so intriguing. Many of dirt's biggest stars have small social numbers versus asphalt personalities. Yet dirt seems to thrive in all areas. Why is social less important on dirt? Is it the volume of racing that creates popularity? Question mark. Geo covered due to traveling? Question mark. And so originally, I came in here and tried to be smart because for those who don't know it, me and Kenny Wallace, and not trying to get you involved here, Mike, but me and Kenny Wallace had a back and forth video. I pointed him out after it became apparent. We had a back and forth deal about dirt, NASCAR, modern times, and I feel like Kenny's kind of changed his perspective now. You know, he used to be like, make it to NASCAR, and now you hear more recently how he's like, I didn't buy my way to NASCAR, race my way to NASCAR. We're not like today's world. So it just shifted here recently to that type of rhetoric. And I think it was based on that back and forthness we had a few months ago. The viewers know what I'm talking about. But I came in here and tried to provide the findings of that fact in a text. And I said, I mean, you could go look at Facebook, and a lot of dirt stars crush most of your modern NASCAR Cup drivers. This is true. We could show you if you want. Start at Rico and Bobby Pierce. This is a little different on Twitter, mainly because Facebook is a conservative platform. And I don't know if this guy's meaning like dirt versus asphalt as far as cars tour guys, because those guys are just irrelevant in comparison to our numbers. That's why I said this guy's a nobody to start with. But our guys are closer to rivaling NASCAR Cup racers on Facebook and social rivalry as far as numbers are concerned. A lot of, especially the modern drivers. But anyway, we continue here. He said that he just found your reply, and you're right. Most dirt track fans never look at Twitter, and if they do, it's for political news. And then I said, oh no, there's more. Look under Max's comment. I went off, and at this point, I had a few drinks, Mike. I'm sorry, you know. Oh, let me start off. We're sponsoring all this that we're saying by Jose Cuervo. I don't know. That's an unofficial sponsoring for sure. Maybe they'll send me a cease and desist after this, Mike. But regardless, I said I went off, and then he replies with "laugh my ass off" and one of these, which is we put this boy in the coffin with this comment right here. This string of comments. I got really pissed off. I came in here. This is underneath Max McLaughlin's comment. He's like, dirt people come to the track, blah, blah, blah. I said, Max, do I really give this nobody some fucking clout in the dirt world? Or no? I mean, this guy rolls around in a effing Lexus beating Toyotas. I mean, no talented SOB. See, I'm drunk as hell when I'm saying this, Mike. This is bad. You know, we get it's that drunk text on, I'll regret it in the mornings type stuff. Couldn't make an A main in the dirt. Now, that's probably factual. Literally just rides to a top 5 finish in the Cars Tour. Is he worth a mention? Like this guy, never heard of her. He is like a pimple on dirt racing's ass, which is funny because that was the video that I put together in response to Kenny on these numbers and popularity contests. And talking this much, and I continue, and talking this much about real stars of racing, not fake fame, in the Dell Jr. High Rock Vodka supported marketed series. Literally zero merit. It is sad that this guy made a post that reached 227K. I mean, what has this guy ever done in his entire racing career? Ride around in a financially advantaged car and beat some nobody rich kids? Might as well be knocking out Jake Paul and calling yourself a champion. Sad. And then below that, I put the video, and we could play the video if I needed to. I timestamp it to where we got Alex Bowman's numbers. We got William Byron's numbers up here on the screen in this video that was made months ago. The numbers have actually increased. Ross Chastain at 80,000, stuff like that. And we go into this video and show how Bobby Pierce is in the 100,000 likes. We show how Noah Gragson, these other guys are so, what is that, 97K. And we go into this Daniel Suarez, how Rico Abreu sitting at 206,000 followers and things along these lines. In this video, Brandon Shepard, 69K. This is against, Hodenschild, 62. I think Bobby Pierce is at 100 and something. Actually, Rico's more popular than Bubba Wallace on Facebook. So we're not talking about like Cars Tour guys, Mike. We're talking about the Cup guys on Facebook. Does Facebook not count? I don't know. Apparently it doesn't. But anyways, we continued. This is where it continues. Once again, Mike, I told you we're going to have a little bit of a rundown here. We're getting to you here very soon. We've almost concluded. I promise you. I said, so he had Max McLaughlin on his little show here on YouTube that, they're doing okay, I guess. And for some reason, they had a dirt versus asphalt debate with Max McLaughlin, who, I mean, this is like asking CJ Stroud. I'm sorry, CJ. I'm sorry. That's very disrespectful. This is like asking Jaron Hall, who's a third stringer up in the north, because we know that Max wasn't necessarily whooping up on Matt Shepard and Matt Williamson on a consistent basis. In fact, whooping up, let's not get on the Matt Shepard situation. But this is a situation where they got a rookie to the national dirt scene, period, and they're trying to have a debate with them. And I simply came in here and said some of these questions Max McLaughlin is not qualified to answer. Just saying. He isn't what most would consider a well-traveled or seasoned driver in the national dirt racing scene. Maybe at the end of this year he could say that, but right now he is not. And that's all I was trying to say. And then he comes in here and says, oh, weren't you the guy last night who talked crap on Twitter and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I came in here and tried to say it as simply as possible. I said, and in the video, if you go and watch it, it's true. He does this. Max McLaughlin does. He says, I said, he's talking about racing in North Dakota. How many times has he even been there? When you're stuck racing Northeast Modified, you don't travel much. Your absolute ignorance to this dirt thing is astounding. And then to bring a regional racer onto your show to talk about dirt racing versus asphalt is such a disgusting way to try to play into a bias. You don't understand what Rookie of the Year mean, or you do understand what Rookie of the Year means, right? And that's what Max McLaughlin's running for in a G.R. Smith situation. Very funny with the whole Matt Shepard thing. I just go on to say I've never heard of her in my life. I said, some of these kids are, or some of the stuff I say, it's more Stephen A. Pat McAfee. He said, never heard of me in my life, blah, blah, blah. I respect people all the time. I don't respect you kind of deal, running his mouth. I said respect from a guy running his mouth on Twitter with the amount of ignorance is not valued in my life. Then when spewing that ignorance, he gets called out, then tries to place the problem and blame on me. Narcissistic much? Anyway, fight free Christmas. I wanted to not even get into this, but Christmas ain't till next week. I'll go about my life being a valid and good, or worry about valid and good people respecting me. And he tried to say he lost all respect from me from something that I said to him on Twitter outside of, or something about his career. And I'd already had mentioned earlier in these comments how, I was misunderstood because as earlier as I said, he's just some rich guy, in a Lexus and a Toyota. Because on asphalt, you can buy speed. If you got a better race car, you can just outperform the world just with your equipment. He is not that. And then I said down here, I said, if you're referring to my comment on you being this asphalt super team, beating up on lower funded guys, which was guilty by association, visual judgment, because he's sponsored by High Rock Vodka in a Dell Junior Series. Like I said, I skipped through, listened to your little show here, found out differently. I admit that in the comment above, I admitted that in the comment above, that's the big difference here. You made a straight up ignorant post / comment about dirt racing. I got the facts right here. I called it out with these facts, and you're refusing to admit wrong and gaslighting the situation. Where I made an assumption of your personal racing career, made an ignorant comment and have admitted it twice that it's wrong. See the difference? Maybe not. Your breed usually don't see anything you're doing as wrong. And that's how I basically ended it. And then apparently Kenny Wallace had something to say. I mean, I don't really know. Dirt racers did not grow up learning how to market themselves. Asphalt is so expensive that we grew up learning if we don't find sponsorship, then we don't race. Fair point. I was just sitting there saying they have to be baiting me. There's no other reason for Kenny to say this. We already had this discussion. And Mike, you're on the line. I just want you to know. I want you to know this Landon Huffman guy has 11,000 followers on Facebook. And I want you to know that you have 17, Mike. You are bigger than this guy as a regional 8-time legend of UMP Modifieds. So I guess I'm done talking. I mean, we could keep going down the numbers here and show the Bobby Pierce with the 127K. I think that's right at with Bubba Wallace. We could show Ricky Thornton Jr. with 42,000, David Gravel with 55. I mean, there's just so many examples in dirt of keeping up with Cup drivers that this just is just a situation, Mike, where people are just that ignorant to the sport if you're not in it. Like, are they really that separated from the whole scenario to not, like, when you heard that, or maybe you haven't looked into numbers, I don't know how social you are, but I'm sure you've seen Bobby Pierce's page and some of these guys with 6-digit followings.
I don't know. I don't, I mean, some of the boys keep up with all that stuff, but I really don't, I don't really keep up with a lot of that. I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm a little older school, but we didn't have all that stuff when I grew up. All my boys and stuff, they know all that stuff, and some of the guys that help us, but I never really, I don't get into that stuff that much.
Well, I mean, you just kick ass on the racetrack. I think that's the different part. What Kenny said, market themselves to get sponsors. I think the thing is in dirt racing is that if you just kick ass on the racetrack, you get the following, you get the support.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you do gotta kind of market yourself and kind of, I mean, you do gotta do stuff somewhat, I mean, because everything's so expensive nowadays. So, I mean, obviously, if I didn't have help, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
But
we all got to have
that help from winning and performing more so than marketing, I would say.
Well, yes. I mean, results always give. I mean I mean, results are everything. As long as you perform and you get results, you're gonna get more than somebody that don't perform. So I mean, that's what we do, and that's why some of us put our hearts and soul into this stuff, just to do the best we can.
Well, and I think it's funny, how they're talking over there. It seems like that in the asphalt world, and we've seen this, results aren't really the main thing over there. It's about who you know and what you know, and if your daddy or uncle or somebody's got a couple million laying around, and then you could be an asphalt star. It don't really matter if you win any kind of lower division. You know, I talked to several USAC and sprint car stars that went out to some of these, 10,000 to test driving sessions at asphalt tracks, and they'll go out there and there'll be one car and it'll be like 8 or 9, 10 guys, and they've all paid 10 grand to try out. Basically, this is how y'all try. I don't know. It's probably more than 10 grand now. This is how they try out in the asphalt world. They get over there, and he told me, I went out there, me and this guy, I'm not even going to name names, and we went out there and was in a couple tenths faster than the other guys. But when they came back to him and read the results, and then they pulled each other off to the side, they said, "Oh, now do you have 65 to do a race?"
Right.
It didn't matter that you were better, and that's the great thing about dirt. That's why I say, Mike, that's why I say dirt racing's the last great sport. It's the pinnacle of competition, because you can't come over here and run subpar and advance.
No, absolutely not. If you don't, you're going to be in the trailer at the end of the night, and you ain't going to run the A main.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and then UMP and modified racing, it's somewhat in that affordable category. You've seen it come a long way. When did you start running? 95, I think I saw it was?
Yeah, 95 was my first year. I ran a bomber, and then 96 I started into modified, which was, way different than what it is now.
Well, that's what I was about to say. You were in the cars when the whole rear end was just flat. The wheels stuck out from the body, I believe, back then.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you just 4 springs and 4 cheap shocks, and hell, I think when I first started, we ran like AutoZone lifetime guarantee shocks on the car, and it was leaf springs, and you had big Nerf bars on the side of the cars to protect all the sheet metal. And I mean, there was no aerodynamics. There was nothing of the sort of aero, back then. It was, I mean, the cars were built like tanks, to be honest with you.
Well, and I also would assume that made driving a little bit more of an issue. It made it a little bit more of a harder car to get around the track.
Yeah, well, I mean, back then, obviously, we didn't have the motors that we have now. I mean, hell, back then, my first modified motor, it was just like a little 355. We had 355s and 377s back in them days, and we were on. I guess when I started mods, we was actually on Hoosier tires. But the year before I started, they was, still on, hell, I don't even remember.
McCrary?
Yeah, McCrary's, I think they was, yes.
Those are some interesting tires back then. Those were hockey pucks.
Yeah. Well, I remember people used to always say they always had a spare for their trailer as long as they had one on the tire rack, because they was good to go up and down the interstate.
Well, and that's kind of what made that racing back then affordable. That's something that a lot of people don't talk about is, they talk about unhooking the cars with tires and things like that. But, I mean, those tires were so durable back then, in comparison to today.
Right, yeah. Like I said, I mean, I think the last year that they actually ran them tires was maybe 95 when I started with my bomber, otherwise maybe 94. But I know it was right around there when, but I think when I started, I was on Hoosiers. It was the first or second year that we was actually on Hoosier tires.
Well, and it's hard to talk modifieds sometimes, just because, I mean, late models think they got it bad with the late model splits in the national scene, and sprint car people are freaking out now that there's 2 splits in the national scene. And then if you look at modifieds, it's like we were just talking about Max McLaughlin, completely different modified to begin with. And then even in I guess you would call it the open wheel modified, or fendered version, there's like, what do you got? How many is it actually split up in? Because like some people like to compare UMP to USMTS sometimes and try to say IMCA, USMTS, and UMP is like the sanctions, but USMTS is a series. USRA is the sanction. So USRA would be comparable to UMP. So if you're talking about weekly racing sanctions, what are you saying? IMCA, UMP, which is dirt car, USRA, and then would you throw a soda in there?
I mean, probably so, because I think that is kind of I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily it's just another form. I don't know. I don't know. You know, I don't really know their rules real well, if they're real similar to USRA or not. I would assume they are, but I'm really not sure of their rules 100%. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like it's you know, it's the worlds that we live in. You know, I mean, obviously we all know I live in the UMP world. You know,
right.
You know that you get over into southern and western Missouri and that way and north and west. I mean, then you get into the USRA world. You know, and then that's, you know, then the USMTS is all amongst all that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the USMTS, that's more of a, you know, that's more of the traveling series. That's more of like your Lucas Oil or your World of Outlaws. And then, you know, like the UMP and the Wissota and IMCA. I mean, we're kind of, I guess,
weekly racing.
Would say all. Yeah, more or less, yes.
So, curious, I remember back when those cars were old, you know, and looked weird, kind of. What do you remember the rules being that separate back then? Because I remember, you know, if there was a modified show, you'd have everyone and their mama there. It didn't matter what real sanction they were from. It seemed like the rules were a little closer together back then.
Right, yeah, because, I mean, we actually used to have some USMTS shows over here. I mean, back when I was young in my career, you know, I mean, I'm talking, oh, shoot, I don't even remember.
Well, even IMCA was close to y'all, too, back then, right?
Right, yes. Yeah, well, I mean, actually, our modifieds were IMCA. I mean, that was before I started, but that's kind of when the IMCA was when the McCrary tires and everything was here, and you know, then that's kind of when it started to transform over into all the UMP stuff. And so,
are you saying Hoosier brought UMP?
I don't know. I mean, I remember Bob Memmer. You know, he was the founder of that deal, and I don't really know exactly. Like I said, I don't remember what year came in and you know, when everything switched and took over. But yeah, you know, so I mean, it's just like I said. I mean, it's just all in the different worlds that we live in, and you know, if you're fortunate enough to be able to go out and travel and live out on the road, I mean, you know, I mean, that's obviously a big goal on some people's plates that they love to do and want to do. And, you know, I had kids when I was young, so I was, you know, I was raising kids. That's what I was doing. I was raising kids and trying to win races and put food on the table.
So you already had kids when you started developing as a driver in modifieds.
Oh, yeah. Yep, for sure.
How old were you then, having kids and all that?
Well, my firstborn, I was 16 when I had my first Michael. I was 16, and then oh boy, I guess Brett. I'm gonna say I got Michael and Michelle and Brett was. I was probably about 22 or so, 22, 23 when I had Brett, and he was my last, so I had 3. But I mean, so like I said, I mean, I was, you know, I was young, and I had my hands full working a full-time job and then some, and and then trying to race on top of it, plus had a family and raising kids. And
well, and that area wasn't bad to stay around, was it? It was funny, last night David Gravel actually had probably his best talk show of the year so far, and I think that was because he had Joey Saldana and Paul McMahon on there. And Joey Saldana, they started talking about pay and exposure of the sport, and do they like where it's going now with Larson and Sweet. And Joey Saldana kind of piped up and said Ted Johnson was doing somewhat better as far as exposure is for the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series back in the 90s and 2000. He was explaining how we had TV exposure. We had big corporations on these cars, national corporations on the cars. So he was kind of explaining how, back then it was a little more, the pay was there. The motors didn't cost as much. It was $10,000 to win, although, down the field it's increased and went back and forth. But that makes me think about that modified racing back then too. I was probably 7 or 8 years old at a track called North Texas Motor Speedway in Roy City, Texas. And in February, they had a race called the Longhorn Roundup, and it was a $30,000 event. And 360 cars qualified, every single one of them, single car qualified on a Tuesday. It was a crazy event. But that was $30,000 to win back then, and Jimmy Owens was there, Kosowski was there, all the big names. Tim Dollinger won it a couple times. But what about for you back then when you just said racing for a living? Obviously, they are complaining on the national scene about making money and where it's at versus the cost of the national cars and all that. But even for a modified local guy like you, it seems like back then it was a little more just as big of a sport for sure, and also paid really well back then, especially when you consider the cost of the car.
Yeah, first, I didn't race for a living back then. I raced to make sure. Yeah, I raced what I put in to go Friday and Saturday night. I was hoping to make at least that much back, to just to be able to make the car go the next week again. We, the objects tried to try not to take money out of your pocket.
Right.
Out of your family's pocket anyways to go racing, which there's times we did. There was times we took everything we had just to go to the racetrack and pray like hell that I won. That way I had money to come back home with, to feed the kids. But, you talk about pay and, I remember back then, it was 350, 400 to win the modified feature. And then shortly thereafter, we was in the $500 range, to win the modified feature. So, what we had in the cars versus the pay was majorly different than what it is now.
Well, and then of course you got to equate cost of living, the value of the dollar back then. What was gas back then? 67 cents?
Yeah, 80 cents, 75, 80 cents, 90 cents.
Tires, were they what they cost now?
Yeah, no, nothing was what it is now. But just like we're talking, so I remember back in let's say 99 or 2000, a little track right here where I live, Highland. You used to be able to walk out of there with like $625 or $650 if you would win the heat race and win the dash and win the feature.
A sweep.
And yes, and let's fast forward to 2020, 2022. These local tracks are paying $700 to win, $800 to win. There's some of them now that are
Fairbury's an anomaly. Fairbury's an anomaly.
Yeah. Yeah, so Fairbury's got theirs going up. Spoon River's going up with theirs now. I know Brownstown. I know they've kind of got a couple structure purse deal that if they have over so many cars, it's $1,000 to win. I think I don't know all the details, but some of these tracks are trying to get the payouts better, but the bottom line is they've got to, the racetrack's got to make the money too to be able to pay that out. So, that's why, people, some people like to get on and bash racetracks and, want to talk bad about tracks and this and that. And that's just something I've never really agreed upon is bashing racetracks, because you just, people bash racetracks enough. I mean, racetracks shut down, and then what do you got? Then you got nothing. Then you're driving somewhere else to go race when you could race closer to home or whatever. But yeah, it's just I like supporting all of our local racetracks. I really do. Some people like to some people like to dog me for that, but you know what? I like supporting the local racetracks because, there's a lot of fans that like to see some of us guys show up once in a while. So I've always liked supporting, when, I don't travel all the time, but I do travel. I've traveled a lot over my years of racing. We used to do a lot of traveling. I mean, we was traveling every week to somewhere, and just the older that I've got, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still travel, to all the bigger money shows. And
I'm assuming you did back then as well, even though you were saying 600 or 500 here, I'm sure there was some 1,000 or 1,500 shows or 2,000 or 5,000 shows,
Yes, and that was, them were all the big shows back then. And yeah, like you said, there used to be, different little series, like there was a Wolfpack series back in the day that we traveled around and followed. And, it was, I don't remember how many races, 15 races or so all throughout Kentucky and Indiana and Illinois. And, we traveled to every single one of them, and I don't even remember what they pay now, but, we did all that back in the day, and then the Summer National stuff. And I mean, there was several different, little series like that we would follow and go try to, because I truly believe that's what made me who I am, is just going out at, the younger age and going to all these different racetracks, that just taught me to be able to adapt to all the different tracks and all the different surfaces and, just everything that you needed to learn throughout the years. But yeah, like I said, I've traveled a lot throughout the years, and sometimes now, if there's not really much going on, I really enjoy going to one of the local racetracks around home here and just popping in and I do it more for the fans than anything else, just to go interact with all the fans and like I said, pop in for a week, and the promoters like it, because
your name,
the name, and you bring fans in, and it's just like I said, I enjoy it. My team's very family oriented. It's very, very seldomly that you see me at any racetrack without my wife or kids or grandkids, because that's how it's always been. It's always been a family affair. Hell, like I said, I started in 95, and Brett was my third child. He came in 96, and back then all the kids were at the racetrack. They were playing in the dirt. They were playing in the grandstands with Hot Wheels, and it's just
Well,
It's never
now, see, I was in promotion for a good little bit down there in Texas, and you know, you mentioned that with the kids in the stands, and those stands back then in those '90s were pretty damn loaded for a weekly show. You know, and I went to and I had, you know, Lanny Edwards, very you know, God bless him, has passed on. You know, helped start the Outlaws, helped start Chili Bowl, all this stuff. You know, he was a character, and I was in there, you know, playing promoter, you know, doing what I could in the modern world to do what I could to bring these people in. And he pointed at these. He had a big set of grandstands in 3 and 4, and he said to me one day, he said, "You see those damn stands right there, and they could probably hold about 5,000-6,000 people on their own, just the corner of the track." He said, "I didn't build those stands because I wanted them. I built those stands because I needed them." And it really hit me when he said that, and I was like, "Whoa!" That was like the light that went off. I was like, "This new day where we're experiencing people not at the weekly track is just weird." And I started trying. That's when I got into the psychology of the situation. Started studying things because I've been in media. I studied media. I see how people imitate reality. You know, when a girl does a new TikTok dance, everyone else is all of a sudden doing the TikTok dance. You know, when somebody wears the cool shades, everybody's doing it. In Texas, nobody gave a damn about non-wing sprint car racing. Loud Pedal started coming out with these slow motion non-wing videos. Now everybody wanted to be a non-wing sprint car driver. So I started seeing how that media manipulated a lot of people. And that's when I started looking back. Okay, I started looking at newspaper clippings and old videos. And I'm like, holy shit, 1990, 92, 93, Devil's Bow, which was the track that you're in freaking Sportsopoly next to the Dallas Cowboys. You know, you're in the newspaper, printed every week, labeled as, and this was a big deal. This is why I jump on that Landon Hoffman and all these NASCAR fucking, I don't even want to get going. It said professional auto racing. Weekly racing was labeled as professional auto racing. So when people looked out on that track, they didn't look at it as a system. You know, they didn't look at it as like, this is grassroots. This is where people get a start in racing. This is where, and this is what it came down to when I started doing the research. People used to look at this sport as looking out on the track and seeing professionals. And now they look at it as, here's where kids learn how to drive, and the ones who weren't good enough to go to NASCAR are left over. These are the ones who didn't qualify on the racetrack now. Because people joke at me and say all this stuff. The co-trickle syndrome is real. The sprint car world is devastated by it. But the racing world is too. Because when co-trickle happened, Jeff Gordon happened, and I know that this new thing to get to NASCAR is go-kart at 5 years old, full-size car at 14, and then cup racing by 20. I know who started that trend, and that guy's name's Jeff Gordon, and he started that trend, and that's also when NASCAR took over. You think about ESPN Speed World back in that day, Mike. ESPN Speed World showed all forms of motorcycle. Hell, they were showing swamp buggy racing. You know, they were showing all kinds of things to the general population. So it wasn't like this big chart of professional or major or minor league stuff. IndyCar racing was bigger than NASCAR, but back to manipulation. You know, a movie came to life with Earnhardt and Gordon. Regardless, when that NASCAR thing took over, it all of a sudden, in my opinion, and this is where I diagnosed what happened. In my opinion, when NASCAR took over, they took over the racing scene of America and people started viewing them as an NFL, and all this other stuff is high school, college levels to get there. And it ruined, in my opinion, the respect for those guys, the Mike Harrisons, Today's World, the Drake Trout, whoever. You're in a dirt car, you're looked at, if you're 25, you're some guy who failed in the high school colleges of racing that just don't exist. And this is why I've had to argue with Cup drivers or Cup fans who believe that like a Chase Elliott could go win the World 100 first try. You know, people believe this, and it's not just because of happenstance. And in my opinion, my research, it's because of these things. And I think that's why people aren't at the track like they used to, because the sport, the position of the dirt racer isn't idolized by society. It is still within ours. It is still within our dirt society because the kids of those 90s eras are me. We are the last kid era. That's why when you go look at the demographics of a lot of our videos and a lot of our content, it's 25 or 28 and up. You know, it's 30. The bigger market on our analytics for our dirt track stuff is in the 35 to 45 bracket. And that's all the 90s kids who was around and raised by the parents who went to the track. The biggest mistake by promoters nowadays is they say, we got to get kids to the track. We got to get kids to the track. That'll bring the parents, that'll make new race fans. I don't know about you, Mike, but I didn't go to the racetrack because it was free to get in. I went to the racetrack because my parents wanted to go to the racetrack, and I went with them. You know, it wasn't the other way around, and that's because society, the grown-ups of that era, found it as cool. That's what I believe.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're probably right. I mean, back then, I mean, hell, even when I went to the races, you know, before I started racing, I mean, the grandstands were packed every single week, you know, with adults and kids. And it's, I mean, on a weekly basis now.
The kids weren't free.
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing like it was back then. And yeah, I don't know what I mean, there's a lot of things that play into it, I guess. I mean, how you can watch races every single night, you know, everybody's updating on social media, but
right.
You know, I mean, that's the world. That's
social media is our
in.
only chance, though. I mean, the big broadcast companies and entities, the big OEM manufacturers, they're invested into cup racing. And honestly, I think that's why they invested into cup racing back then, because it was easier to sell a car if you were promoting a Lumina and a Monte Carlo than if you were promoting an Indy car, you know?
Yeah.
So I just didn't know if you noticed that. You know, today's world, that weekly track is really struggling.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, that's why that's why I said I like going and supporting, you know, the local tracks when you can and when there ain't nothing else going on, and you know, I mean, I know there's several, you know, I mean, you know, just like, you know, you talked to Fager the other day, and you know, guys like Ryan Unthinker, and you know, just all of us Midwest racers, you know, when there ain't something else going on, I mean, I'm guessing they feel the same way that I do. I mean, they enjoy going to support their local tracks, just to try to help the tracks out, you know. Like I said, I mean, I really enjoy it. Me and my kids and, you know, my whole team, I mean, we enjoy going to the local track when we're not going out of town. And hell, sometimes there might be something going on and we just all decide, hey, let's go uptown, or let's go to, you know, Peevely or Granite City or Brownstown, and not even go to the other show, just to stay around home and just making an easier weekend, you know. Because I mean, you know, like I said, I mean, I've been doing it a long time now, and I know there's people that's been doing it longer than me, but sometimes you like to just kick back and take it easy and go support your local track and yeah, make sure they're going to be there next week.
Well, I'll tell you what, UMP is definitely a little different, I would say, than IMCA or even USRA. I feel like IMCA is probably the biggest when it comes to numbers, I would say. You know, USRA, USMTS, those are, you know, it's pretty damn stiff competition, because when those USMTS boys ain't racing USMTS, you can find a 3,000 or 4,000 USRA race that a track's just putting on, you know. So it's pretty stiff over there if you want to go in the USRA, you know, car bracket. But UMP is kind of, you know, it's segregated on its little own. I think it hurts the UMP sanction that there's a lot of it in the Indiana, Ohio, PA, New York area, where you're Indiana, you know, nobody cares over there unless you're a non-wing sprint car. Ohio, if you're not a late model or a sprint car, no one cares. PA, I mean, once again, same story, a sprint car more so. And then Northeast, where, you know, there's IMCA and UMP, you know, you're swallowed up by the big blocks. You know, you're hated. You're probably chastised over there if you're not in a big block. But it does seem, even though y'all are, I would say, the smaller pond of the big three, if you want to call it that way, it seems like y'all are a small pond of some largemouth bass that are trophy bass. You know, like there is some ruthless competition. I would say probably the most ruthless pitting area I've been in is some UMP modified stuff at Fairbury. Like, there's some real rivalries between chassis builders, guys who do shocks. Like, talk about that a little bit, because it's one of the most shocking things I've seen is how actually serious that Illinois UMP circle is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that, that's, this is the central Midwest area here in Illinois. If you was to draw a couple 100-mile circle, Central Illinois is it. I mean, I'm not taking nothing away from, there's a lot of good guys in Indiana, a lot of good guys in Kentucky, Ohio. There's a lot of good racers all over. But yes, you come here to the central Illinois Midwest here. I mean, it's tough.
It's cutthroat.
It really is.
There's some rivalries, man.
Yes, it's tough. I mean, and just like you said, I mean, Fairbury's been known for putting on big modified races for us modifieds, and that's kind of like the big show where everybody wants to go and show showcase what they got. Yeah. I mean, I love going to Fairbury. They all know that. Everybody knows I love going to Fairbury. Fairbury's been very good to me, but you can also have that love-hate relationship with it too. I mean, because I've had it taken away from me many a times. But they're some of the first ones that stuck their necks out and try to put on shows for us modifieds, and that's why they get the car counts that they do. And I've seen a few of the US MTS guys come over and run there. It's like I said before, it's kind of the different worlds that we live in. I've seen Rodney Sanders come over and run with us a handful of times, and he didn't have much luck. I think he won one with us at Peoria one night, and then just several other ones. Whatever it is that's different between their world and our world,
here's the tires.
It's hard to come over here and just adapt and run well in our sanctioning. It's hard for us to go over there and just bolt on stuff and go run good in their sanctioning. I mean, for whatever it is, I haven't figured it out yet. Believe me, if I knew what it was, I would. But I had a Hughes car for a couple of years here. Just a couple of years ago, I've had a Jason Hughes car, which is, everybody knows Jason Hughes.
One of the best,
and,
Oklahoma boy.
It's just another race car, just like our race cars. And I was able to take that car in our world and run extremely well with it. Now, I did, me and Jason, we're two different drivers, obviously. But his standard setup, I was good with, but I definitely fine-tuned and made kind of my own deal out of his car and to suit our racetracks, our tires, my driving style. So and then vice versa. I've tried taking our cars, one of my cars, my impressive car, I tried taking it and going out to Humboldt to the King of America race, and I was just horrible right off the get-go. Now, we made the car better by the second day that we was there.
Yeah, you're too far behind then.
We had made the car a little bit better, but then I ended up getting crashed out, and it crushed my right side header, and I didn't have another header. You know, obviously I had an open motor out there, and ain't none of them guys run open motors. So I was going through the pits, you know, we all were. We asked every single buddy in the pit area if they had a open motor header. And the guys that did, if anybody did have an open motor header, it was for a 23-degree headed motor, not a 15-degree headed motor or 18-degree headed motor, whatever I had at that point in time. So we ended up having to come back home, you know, the day early, and you know, the reason why I didn't have a set of headers with me is because I run stainless headers, and USMTS don't allow stainless headers; they only allow steel headers. So, you know, I had a set of steel headers. I had them on my car to go out there, but I didn't even take an extra set with me because I knew they weren't legal, you know. So, but anyways, you know, like I said, I mean, we made our car better, but we obviously knew that we weren't, you know, whether it was our setup or whatever it was with their tires, we were just not up to speed with them, you know. And it's kind of, like I said, I mean, it's kind of the same thing that I see when, you know, I've seen a few of them guys come over here and you know, and maybe they were just coming through, going to a different show somewhere and just stop in and you know, race with us. And you know, it's just, like I said, it's just a different world, and it takes them, you know, it's going to take them a few nights to get accustomed to everything too. So, I mean, I'm really interested in seeing, you know, a couple of these shows they've got going on now. They're trying to join all the sanctionings and cars together as one. I know they're going to have something of some sort. I'm assuming they're going to have something of some sort of uniform or rules to come out, or if everybody's going to have to be on the same style tire. I'm not really sure. I haven't really seen nothing yet. But
well, they may want the entry fee more than the fairness. You know that.
Yeah,
they don't want to reject entry fees. There's only going to be there's going to be more than one winner, but you know the illusion gets you to pay whatever that entry fee is.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, them guys sticking their necks out there to put that kind of money on. I mean, I don't blame them for an entry fee. I mean, they got to have some help, you know, just like
right.
Us
But what
guys.
I'm saying there is, like, this unified idea sounds great, but like you said, if they don't have these rules to a certain point that everyone can truly be, you know, competitive, it's a gimmick.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like I said, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I truly probably think if, you know, if we all, I mean, I'm going to say the tires are probably the biggest thing, but
right.
You know, what is fair? I mean, what the bottom line is what is really fair? I mean, you can't have a show and say, okay, everybody's going to run on the UMP Hoosier tires. You can't have a show and say, okay, everybody's going to run on the USMTS style tires. I mean, because that's just, you know, it's just, I mean, you know, and we're all signing up for it for, you know, whatever. It's kind of like the Dome, you know, we all sign up going to the Dome, and you know, I mean, like I said, I never want to talk bad about racetracks and stuff, and we all know what we've had at the Dome. Now, I believe this year was probably one of the best racetracks they've had. I mean,
yes, 100%.
It was still
100% best.
It was still a little rough.
Yeah, but years in the past, I feel like you couldn't really rip the lip like y'all were. You know, they said they added some banking. Years past, it always seems like it ended up floating to the bottom in some form of way.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, years past, it by end of the nights, or, you know, the second night, third night, the track had just continuously gotten rougher and rougher. And I mean, you know, we're talking, you know, ruts rough. But now at the same time, I mean, that has produced some awesome racing in the past. You know, I mean,
yeah.
You know,
The modifieds have been better than the late models.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, you know, we're all on the same racetrack, so you know, we all got the same deal. That yes, we're all dealing with the same. Same thing. So
I know you brought up this mixed rules deal, and I'd like to talk to you about it. You did just mention, you know, what are they going to do? This is the official. I got the rules on the screen. I'll read them to you. This was updated December 5th, so I'm assuming it's an XR event, so it's like you never know really what's good. Sometimes they'll change. I mean, sometimes good for the good, sometimes for the what the fuck. You know, it's like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. You know, but what they have right now, it says USRA modified rules will be used with these blended rules below. It says Wasota modifieds, tire Wasota 35W or American Racer KK704. It says XR modifieds, you get a spoiler. Apparently these other rules don't get a spoiler. I'm not sure. Maybe they're within the... I know UMP doesn't, or y'all have like that little one. It says that a 5.5-inch spoiler will be allowed on the XR modifieds. American KK704, Hoosier G60 stamped, Hoosier G60 unstamped, no mix or match. All of them say no mix or match. And then the dirt car UMP modifieds, your division, it says y'all will be able to run the tire or the Hoosier M30, M60 with a M60 on the right rear all night, or American Racer KK704, no mix or match. So you were just talking about these unified rules and what they're going to do, and you mentioned tires. It does look like I've heard the American Racer's better. You know, how would you assess that just by, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if you got it on your screen, but once again, the KK704 is an option on everybody's car. It just looks like for you, your UMP modified, you can run the M30 and M60 with the M60 on the right rear all night, it stipulates.
Right, yeah. So that, yeah, I mean, that's our tires.
Is that fair for y'all? Yeah. I mean, a 5.5-inch spoiler allowed. That XR modified is kind of like a USRA modified, basically, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't even know what that XR modified is. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. You know, see, that, I mean, I mean, you just told me more than I signed up for it, and I'm going to go no matter what. You know, and I just deal with what the rules are. I mean, I'm not going to bitch. I'm not going to complain. It's just going to be what it is.
But this is back to that fairness aspect versus a gimmick. You know, right, if you're going to put rules out and put on 100K and say we're doing all this stuff and everyone can race, you still have to take in mind that there has to be some fairness in the competition element when you're paying $100,000. It can't be just a gimmick or come and sign up. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, I mean,
based on what I just said, how would you feel competing with your car with your tires against a 5.5 spoiler with the American Racers?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what them cars are that get a 5.5-inch spoiler. I really don't. So I don't know. I mean, in USMTS they've got 5-inch spoilers. So I mean, you know, they've got more than what we've got too. So I don't, you know, that's just them things, you know, that, I mean, we're all going to have to roll with and figure out. I mean, all of us guys might go up there and just flat get our asses kicked. I don't know. We'll find out. I guess.
We all care about the engines, obviously. It looks like the engine options on that XR modified is a crate engine or a claim engine. So that might be the XR modified might be closer to the IMCA. It's sounding like.
Right. Yeah. Like the IMC. Like yeah.
But then it also says the USRA modifieds will be used with these blended rules below, and a USRA modified is a USMTS modified.
Pretty much, yep.
I mean, that's the rules. I mean, the USRA is kind of like the UMP is, you know, it's just like if UMP started, like say Dirt Car came out with a series next year called UMP STMS and they traveled. That's basically, right. It would be UMP rules, but traveling. And that's what USRA is. It's the sanctioning of the body. So, I mean, it's kind of confusing. I just feel like I said, there is when we hear, and you've read the rule books, you know what you have to do. We had Kenny Wallace do an explanation video on how much you have to actually do to these cars to be able to go actually race and other sanctions sometimes. I'm sure it's changed over the years here and there, but you know that there's a difference, so
Yeah.
when they're saying all cars just race together, it has to make competitive sense.
Yeah. Which, I guess we can applaud them for trying.
Yeah,
to,
definitely.
Trying to put this deal together. I know there's been some guys in our area that has been trying to do something, to get everybody together, but that's been the problem. That's been the problem why it hasn't happened, is just where do we go to make it fair for everybody, to join everybody? Because
Right.
I'll be the first to tell you, just like what Kenny Wallace, me and Kenny went out and did that deal at the King of America, and I'm not going to say it was a lot of stuff to change to go do it, but we did have to change enough stuff to go run in their series to be completely legal. It did kind of suck, to be honest with you. There were several things that we did have to do that was, it just sucked to do. Now having the Hughes car, it was, I feel it was way easier to bring the Hughes car, which is a full-blown USMTS car. I felt it was way easier to bring that car over to this world than it was to take my car over to their world.
Right.
Just because the changes that we had to make, and I'm not saying anything about our rules versus their rules, anything that any rules are better or worse or this or that. We have some different rules than they have. They have some different rules than we have.
Well,
and like I said, it is easier to take one of their cars and bring over here into our world than it is to take one of our cars and unless you have one of our cars specifically built to go over there, a flat UMP car is harder to take over to their world than it is to their car to bring over to our world. I've been there and done it.
Right. Yeah. And I think the issue you're going to have here is, I was just kind of, breathing in their rules page here, and it seems like how it says USRA modified rules will be utilized with these blended rules below. It sounds like that you can run a straight up USRA modified, or you can run a straight up USMTS modified, and to run with them, these are your rules to run with them. That's how I'm reading this right now. So basically, back to the gimmick versus competitive element, if you don't think that you, Mike Harrison, or the best UMP modified driver out there could bring a straight up UMP modified as it sits with this tire M30 M60 with a M60 right rear all night, or KK 704, if you don't think that that's a fair opportunity to beat a USMTS modified, then it leans towards gimmick. So you're basically going to take your modified up there, and you're going to have to beat USMTS modifieds with your modified.
I'm not necessarily saying that that you can't flat compete. I was more stating,
Well, no, I'm not saying you
can't.
I'm not saying you made that statement. I'm curious. Do you think that your UMP modified as it sits right now with that tire situation can keep up with the USMTS modified?
At certain racetracks, early in the night, our tires are probably more superior earlier in the night than what them tires are. But like I said, then our racetracks in our area are a lot different than a lot of the racetracks that they race on, that they travel to. It's different soil types. The racetracks are different. I don't know all their racetracks that they race at, but I do keep up with a lot of them because I'm a very big fan of racing, period.
Have you been to this
racing.
track? Have you been to Mississippi Thunder? I know Mike McKinney has.
Nope. Yeah, no, I have not. I have not. But I don't think
it's a great racetrack, by the way. It's a high banker. It's a shit getter, but it does dust off. I think that's what you're trying to say is when those tracks dust off a little bit, that's when what USRA and those USMTS cars can do kind of get going.
Well, their tires are more suited for that, I would say. To where
now, it says you do have the option to run that 704, which is that what they're running?
Right. I think so. Yeah. So just like so let's just say Fairbury. You've been to Fairbury enough. You know what Fairbury's like early in the night.
Right.
Early in the night, I think our tires would be superior over their tires early in the night. If say the same deal went to Fairbury with the type of dirt that they have, I think their tires would possibly not be as good as our tires early in the night. Now, later in the night when the track slicked off, then maybe so. I mean, I don't really have enough experience with their tires. I know I've talked to people and there's people that really like them tires and say that somebody that's ran UMP tires versus their tires, they say that them tires actually really come in a lot harder than what our tires do in the slick surfaces. So, I personally don't have enough time with them tires to say yes or no, because I just don't. I'd be lying if I did, and I don't. So.
Well, you would be guessing on the competitiveness. I think that's the issue with this kind of mixed rule deal is we are kind of guessing on the competitiveness of how these mixed rules will work. I think they did a similar thing at Las Vegas, and you had different rule packages work out, but that's Vegas, I mean. It's not 100,000. I think you are going to run into a situation here where it sounds really good to mix them all, but like I said, is it gimmick or is it reality? Like we can all take entry fee monies, but when it comes down to competitive element, tit for tat, how's that UMP modified, how it's set up, going to run against the USMTS car? That's basically what they said. Bring your car and here's your tires.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess the only thing we can do is find out. But I mean, I think you're right. I think was it last year, like the first year that they kind of opened that up somewhere, some show?
I believe it was Las Vegas. They did something like this. They called it something like that. It was the XR event.
And I think there was a few different
combos that won.
Yes, and I think everybody was pretty competitive. Now, I don't know what the tire rule was there. I have no idea, but I don't know. It just, like I said, I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be an experience. I mean, it'll be something different. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm really glad that we're going to, have it. I wish we was all uniform to where we could all go do whatever we wanted when we wanted to do it, but that's just not how it is.
Well, I think possibly the bigger blocker there is IMCA. I think that's why this is named XR Modifieds, because even though it's IMCA rules, I believe IMCA and XR have a rivalry or something, it seems like a history. I think XR used to broadcast Boone, and then there was a mix-up and issues here, and then another issue down at East Bay, and there's a lot of, that's the funny thing, Mike, and I'm sure there's a lot of behind the scenes, like
Oh
actual
yeah.
personal hatred between people. Like
Yeah.
it is insane. I mean, you could break up with your ex one day and the other guy's messaging her the next saying all this crap. You know, it's like insane, you know, like the hatred with people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's it just like the days of our lives, right? I mean,
Jerry Springer is
it,
looking down proud onto the modified scene. I'll tell you that right now.
well, it's not just the modified.
I know, I'm kidding. The
it's
streaming
all
war,
racing
the
world.
streaming war's got some characters, buddy. Oh, the streaming war's got some characters.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I try to. I don't know. We just try to pride ourselves in putting the best race car together that we can and going and winning races. And like we was talking before, let the results speak for themselves, and try to stay out of all that bullshit.
Oh my! You say like you know a good bit. I bet with all the stuff you've done over the last 30 years, basically almost. You know, you probably experienced too much. I mean, you probably we'd have to look up statute of limitations for you to explain all the stories. I bet you got.
There's been a lot.
Is there any crazy stories that Mike Harrison could give us? Is there one? Is there one? What's a crazy story that Mike Harrison's got from this racing world? You don't even have to name names.
I don't know so much about crazy stories. I just the biggest thing I could talk about is all the fun that we used to have.
Well, that's good too.
I mean, we used to, and having fun leads to crazy stories, right?
Right,
but
that's true.
We used to have, we used to have some fun. I mean, fun and parties at the racetracks. You know, everybody got along, and everybody hung out, and everybody had fun, and it's just so much different now than what it used to be. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, the biggest thing, I mean, we always try to have fun, and I've got a tight knit bunch around me. Like I said before, it's mostly all family, and I've got a few other guys that, help with their families, and we just all try to have fun. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, obviously we're there to race and win, but it's
well, I mean, I get the fun stuff, like when I was helping promote and announce and doing stuff I was doing, heck, I remember one time we was up real late at the track. We always shut the place down, lock the gates on the track. Yeah. I did that almost every single weekend. One night, one of the racers got to run his mouth. I said, "Hey, I'm a pretty damn good little computer racer." That's back when I knew Larson and everybody, and I was kicking all their asses. And I'll take you out on the track in my old car and show you what it's all about. So we piled about 5-6 guys into my car. The same car I'm driving today. It's got 430,000 miles on it. And Devil's Bell's a half-mile track. And I don't know I guess the track's sold now, so we can legally say this. So we had, I don't know, you heard a guy named Bobby Ruffin. He was a big-time modified guy down there, won a lot. A couple other guys, sprint car guy. We had about 5 people in my car, a couple girls. And I went to tearing my ass wide ass open down into turn 1 and 2. My little car out there was running about 65, 70. I go in there wide ass open, and I pull the damn e-brake, and we sling this motherfucker in there, and the whole left side goes up in the air, and I just stayed in it. I just stayed in it. I said it. I mean, we stayed in it and kind of went up the track a little bit because it entered on the bottom, but hey, we just went wide open. But they're losing their mind. There's people filming at the back straightaway. They can't believe it. They thought we getting out of the car. They're all crying and screaming, "I'm never riding with you again," blah, blah, blah. But that's the type of stuff you're talking about, that type of just camaraderie every week that is just better than any nightclub you can go to.
Yeah, you talk about stuff like that. I mean, there's so much. one thing you talk about that, one thing that comes to mind with me is Tyler Nicely. I'm sure you know Tyler Nicely. I don't know how long ago it was. It's been, several years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago or something, at Mod Mania at Granite City. Somehow or another, I got the keys to somebody's side-by-side, and it was one of them little fast.
Oh, those side-by-sides are deadly.
Fast, the fast little side-by-side, four-wheel drive deals, and I got him to get into that thing with me, and I told him I was going to teach him how to go around Granite City, and we
oh no, that's not good.
We took off out to the racetrack. And Gundecker must have just watered that racetrack to let it sit overnight, and all the lights were off, and we hit the racetrack, and we went into turn 1, and the poor kid, he was pretty young back. I mean, I don't remember how old he was, how many years it was, but yeah, that's probably something he'll never forget. I mean, we didn't crash, we didn't wreck nothing, we didn't do nothing, but we went for a lap around Granite City.
It sounds like a lap he can't forget.
Yeah, I doubt he ever forgets it. I'm sure he remembers that. And then shortly after, we went and parked it, and then shortly after, Kevin Gundecker comes straight to me because he knows. He comes straight to me and he says, "Mike, don't do it again." I said, "I didn't do nothing." He says, "I'm telling you, don't do it again." I said, "Okay, Kev, I'll see you tomorrow."
Those track owners are the judge, jury, and executioner, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I've been telling people this. You want to mess with the mafia, mess with some of these track owners that have backhoes and a bunch of property. The number one rule in criminality is no body, no case. You know that, Mike. So they can.
Yeah, another one way back in the day was a bunch of us at Calvert City ended up getting a bus started. They used to have them bus races. Like I don't know if you remember back when Sherry Heckeness owned Calvert City.
No, I do not. I was not in that area. I'm sorry,
right.
but
so they had them bus races. Well, they had some big mod races back in the day, and we all ended up getting this bus started, and yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, you talk about stories. There's stories and stories and stories. But some of them nobody really knows about, so we better.
Well, most of them you can't tell. Most of them you can't tell. Whether that's because it was extremely illegal or because there were too many women involved. One of the two reasons is why we can't tell.
Yep, that's right.
Well, at least we're telling the truth now. That's kind of funny. That's got to be something that's interested in your career transition. And you start out. You're young, you're coming up. There's probably guys you looked at that you wanted to beat or talk to get some advice. And then at some point it has to turn into like a Tyler Nicely situation. Somebody wants to talk to you about how to do this. You're now the icon. You're now who they want to keep up with. You're who they're trying to be. When did you start noticing that, and how did that feel?
Yeah,
when did you start noticing that? That had to be a little bit of a shocker in a way. I'm assuming it had to be a shocker.
Yeah, I would say in the last handful of years, I've really noticed that all the guys that I grew up with racing are now pretty much gone for the most part.
Right.
And we can go back to, me and, Jeff Leka, Chad Kinder, Denny Schwartz, like you talked about that Troy Taylor, I remember him being around for a long time.
He's a big Texas guy, yeah, yep, for a long time. Still runs, I believe, so.
Yeah, there was Randall Sweeney.
Wow, Wayne,
you know,
did you ever
things.
encounter Wayne Brooks?
Yes, yep. Yeah, I mean,
The
he
UFO.
was more of a, yes, he was more of that, you know, southern and western. I mean, he did venture up here. I think he come up here and ran at Granite City with us a couple times.
Well, he was big. He got famous in Texas for, he was one of the first guys to really nail the setup and start dominating with those V6s back in the day. Did y'all ever experience a V6 string or no?
Yeah, no, we never.
But do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there was a couple up here that tried it, but just never really could take off with it a whole. I mean, that deal just never took off really.
Well, that
big.
probably goes back. We were talking about Troy Taylor earlier before we came online. That probably goes back to what I was saying about how those Texas tracks, they're like quarter-mile Port Royals, or, you know, they get so glassy and so icy, and they're just slick tracks from top to bottom that
right.
A V6 on those little tires is just a killer, you know. And back then they had those big 30,000 to win, you know, races down there in 10 and 5, and you'd have all the big guys from up north come down. I guess you would have raced with possibly Jimmy Owens and Mike Marlar when they were coming up, because our boys down there did too. I mean,
yep.
They were UMP guys, right?
Yep, I was. I grew up racing with them guys. Yes, I did.
A lot of people don't know that Jimmy Owens and Mike Marlar are modified. Those were the original kind of Ricky Thorntons in a way.
Yep, I remember racing with both of them guys back in the day. They were. Well, I mean, we're all pretty much right around the same age, but I don't know if they started, but I don't really know when they started or whatever. Yeah, they were damn good. I will say that. Goddamn, they was good.
And Mike Marlar, I'll never forget it. I was like 11 years old. Mike Marlar in that he had a black camo car with the orange 157.
Yep.
And it was a bad mother, you know what. I was telling you about that other guy down there, Shawn Janes. He couldn't really travel much, but him and Mike Marlar, it was, I believe, a 10,000 to win topless race, and I would say probably 99 or 2000. Him and Mike Marlar went at it, man. That was the first time I saw him. Mike Marlar was a bad son, because that boy we had down there, Cowtown was a very similar track to Fairbury. And when you talk to Texas racing people, especially North Texas, Cowtown's somewhat idolized a lot because it's a track that no longer exists. But they called it the fastest little track in Texas, and it was a quarter mile, and it was high banked. I mean, turn 1 and 2 was a hairpin high bank, and 3 and 4 was kind of sweeping. So you would build your momentum up on the top of 3 and 4, and then you would just crank it into 1 and 2. It was very, you had to be very aggressive, a very Fairbury-ish style aggressive or driving style. And Mike Marlar and Shawn Janes went toe-to-toe. And Shawn Janes was probably the best man to ever ride the rim at Cowtown. He actually did it in a sprint car against Carl Edwards, believe it or not. He actually whooped Carl Edwards' ass there one night. But Mike Marlar and Jimmy Owens, the tech guy at Devil's Bow where we worked, he was the guy who popped. I don't know if you heard about this back when Jimmy Owens was racing. He was the tech guy who popped Jim. He won I believe it was the Longhorn Roundup, one of the big modified races down there. And he DQ'd Jimmy Owens. He actually found something that was illegal in Jimmy Owens' car and popped him. And that was after Jimmy had went on like a string of winning big races.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, modifieds were weird. Tech was weird back then. That could be an interesting talk with you. Talk about the evolution of the tech man since back then.
Oh boy, yeah, I mean,
a lot of shit went under the radar back then, it feels like, compared to today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't.
You could be Darrell Waltrip right now. What did you do, Mike?
Yeah, I don't.
What did you do?
I don't know.
Tell the truth.
I always
tell a little trick you got away with that doesn't matter anymore.
No, I never really did. I mean, that's.
Hey, hold on. Really did sounds like a gray area, Mike. I'm just saying.
Now, the only thing that I ever did in my life that was not legal was run a limited slip rear end in my bomber.
Oh.
And that was 1995. You was supposed to have an open rear end, and I had a limited slip rear end, which I was too stupid to know any better because I didn't know nothing, and I ended up getting busted and disqualified for it.
I thought you would have said something with the gas tank, like everybody accused Elite about.
No, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Well, you obviously said you had a chassis situation. That was the biggest deal when I noticed, like I was talking about earlier, the Fairbury rivalries. It seemed like it was very chassis based. Like I saw lethal guys hating elite guys and this and that. What's that about?
Yeah, I don't, and that's kind of what I was.
Do you know what I'm saying, though? Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm not just making that up, right?
Yep, about how we all used to have fun together, and I mean, it just used to be totally different. There's just so much
drama,
and I mean, it's not just in the racing world. I mean, it's in the world itself. I mean, there's so much hatred, so much drama. There's just, I mean, it's the world itself, and I mean, it's just trickled down to the whole racing world too. But yeah, like I said, I mean, we all used to, if there was 100 modifieds at a big show back in the day, I mean, it wouldn't be nothing that after the races to have everybody at one person's trailer having a ball together.
Right.
And nowadays you got 5 at 20 different trailers.
You got 5. Here's what happens, and this is what I noticed. You got 10 people here at this trailer. You across the parking lot over there, you got 15 or 20, and then you got in the back over there 5 or 10. And I was, I didn't know. I'm walking around, the Chaz guy. Everybody's watched me. I'm talking to this guy and that guy, and I go from fucking group to group, and it's fuck that motherfucker. And it's like, whoa. And this is why I say it shocked me because, I mean, honestly, Mike, I mean, that's why I said it shocked me how ruthless and cutthroat that little circle is in Illinois. I go to a lot of areas, and it's not that bad. That doesn't happen a lot. Like the camaraderie you're talking about is kind of still out there in other areas. That's why it shocked me. And why I'm asking you is because when I came to that scene, like you just described, there are these little circles and they are motherfucking each other bad.
Yeah, that's I mean, down there at the Dome, I mean, I never really knew Jordan Grabowski. I mean, I knew who he was, obviously. But, I mean, me and him, we was parked right across from each other, and we got to talking, and we got to, bullshitting around, and
he's an IMCA guy. It's cool. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, now, now I know him, he knows me, and it's all good. We bullshitted all weekend long, drank some beers together with each other, and
right.
But even me and him, we even talked about exactly what we're talking about right now, and he even said that because I guess he must race a lot of, I mean, IMCA.
He's an IMCA guy, yes. He's IMCA, yes.
Plus some of the other stuff too. Plus some of the USMTS or USRA stuff that's
right
up wherever he's from. He says that he told me that he would probably say IMCA is probably I think that's what he said. The IMCA was probably the least like that out of any of the deals that he knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's what he was telling me. He says, man, if you'd come here, you would still see everybody having fun together and everybody talking and bullshitting and this and that, but it's just, I don't know.
What do you think? When did that change for UMP in that little sliver? Was it really the Nick Hoffman domination era? Like what changed that? When did you personally see that start to mold?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of been
Well, you've seen it change. You just described how it used. You was
Yeah,
mentioning Tyler nicely. You know, I mean, that's not too far ago. When did you see that slow change?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, a handful of years, maybe 10 years ago. I mean, and it's not just in the modified. I mean, it's kind of in. I mean, you see it in the late models too. I mean,
Right.
you've got your cliques that run together up and down the roads together, and they all park together, and you know, I mean, they won't even associate with some of the other guys in the pits. I mean, it's not just in the mods. I mean, it's everywhere really, but you know, we're just kind of focusing on the mods because that's what we're talking about. But yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's just the revolution of the cars of everybody.
Well, that's kind of why I tuned it to, you know, chassis, because that's what I noticed when I noticed these little clicks. It was chassis, you know, and I'll tell you what, it's kiddie shit too, because you'll see that same fucking thing. You want the closest thing to y'all in Illinois with that UMP motherfuck you back and forth based on who's got a chassis is the micro scene in Tulsa. You go there, you go there, and I'm telling you, buddy, if you got it driven, you better stay the fuck away from a 10J. I mean, it's little boy, and maybe they're teaching the open wheel guys this shit, but the chassis deal over there is just as cutthroat, and that's why I was saying, you know, is it the Nick Hoffman domination era? Because obviously he had an association there with Elite, I believe it was. I'm not professed, but it seems like these little cliques have developed, and possibly not just chassis here, but technology and competition elements on the track to where if I got this chassis and this shock package, I'm saying, hey, don't talk to that motherfucker, because if you give him an edge or tell him what we might be doing, he's going to fucking go tell all his buddies, and now all of a sudden this chassis guy is going to have what we got, and their shot guy is going to beat us now on the track. And that kind of that competitive element, I feel like, has played the bigger factor in splitting that up, because that's kind of what happened on the micro scene. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. I mean, I don't, you know, I've always kind of been the outsider on the chassis deal because, you know, I had the impressive stuff, which, you know, I mean, there was several impressives, you know, in the air, but, you know, earlier in my career, I had Larry Shaw cars, which nobody else had Shaw cars in this area. So I was kind of the outsider.
So that's how you know Wayne Brooks. No, I'm just playing.
Yep. And then I ended up with the impressive stuff. And, you know, I mean, I had the impressive stuff. A lot of other people had impressive stuff, but, you know, I'm not saying that I wasn't in no clique. I think
you were royalty at that point, Mike. You know?
Yes. You know, and then after the impressive stuff, then I got the Hughes car, and obviously, you know, there again, you know, you're the black sheep because I'm bringing a USMTS car over to UMP World, you know, so, I mean, I never really got into that clique stuff, and I never was part of any of them clique things. I was always the Lone Ranger or the outsider or whatever you may want to call it.
But it seemed like you have a little, when you were explaining the camaraderie before, it seems like you have a bit of emotion in it not being that way anymore. It seems like you don't, like if I was sitting here and asking you, what do you not like about your racing life? That would be somewhere in the top 3 is potentially something you don't like about racing now.
Yeah, I would just soon everybody talk to everybody and everybody have fun and everybody be buddies, but that's
right.
Not
so
how,
you're not in it, but you're witnessing it.
Right. Yep. Yeah, that's just not how the game's played anymore. So it's just something we all got to deal with, and you're either part of it or you're not, you know.
Right, but that's not well. But once again, you are royalty, Mike. So what you're saying here tonight could potentially affect. And the spoken word's very powerful. I try to tell people this all the time. Reason freedom of speech is like up at the top of the charts is because the spoken word is possibly, if you look at history, Mike, the spoken word is like the most powerful thing ever created. You know, Hitler didn't really shoot a lot of people. He just spoke some stuff and people did it. You know, so even Jesus and his follower, I mean, we could go down the line on how important spoken word is. So I'm just saying, in your little community of this sliver of Illinois that has all this angst and situations, somebody like you speaking up and maybe saying, "Hey guys, this could be a different way," could make a difference.
Yeah, I don't.
You're important, Mike. I know you don't get it, but you are important. You know, you're what you think and what you say, I feel like resonates with that community very big, you know.
Yeah, I mean some yeah, I mean some do, some don't. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, you know, it's just kind of like the racing scene. I mean, as far as the racing world is right now, we could never go back to where we was 5 or 10 years ago. You know, I mean, because you're not going to go back into time. You know, I mean, just like you know, some of the things Jason was talking about with that's, you know, evolved with the racing world nowadays with
data.
Yeah, with data acquisition stuff. I mean, you know, it's there. It's not going to go away. You know, I mean, just like you're talking now. I mean, this stuff.
Well, that's a little different, Mike. That you're talking about actual on the track. We're talking about humans interacting with one another. What you're saying can change that. I mean, you talked about the world today and the problems of the day and all this stuff, and we talk about the politics ruining, dividing, all this stuff. Like that's all that's happening based on what people are saying. You know, how we interact.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about. What you're saying that is a problem in today's society is based on human interaction, not race cars on the track. You know, I just feel like that you potentially have a royalty based enough voice in that community that even you just saying what you just said here in the last 10 minutes of how you miss that and how you don't like the click stuff, that could potentially lead somebody who's motherfucking over here on the one side of the pitting area to go ahead and walk over and say hello.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it does change some people's minds, that's great. I love it. I'm glad I affected them. You know, but I don't. I mean, I don't know if it will. Come on, buddy.
That's interesting. It's interesting. It seems like it's something that matters. It seems like it's something you did allude earlier how you're more a family guy. You're a you know, in that aspect, when you say you're a family guy, these types of things are what affects that family atmosphere, that camaraderie.
You're exactly right, and it does. I mean, it is something that matters. But you know, I mean, it definitely take more than just one person.
I don't know, Mike. You're a pretty big person. I mean, the Chaz can help you. I mean, we could help it out. I mean, we could kumbaya everybody if we need. I mean, if we got to bring Bud Light, you know, I don't know if they'll accept it, but I mean, you know, that's a whole nother subject. I mean,
yeah.
Or a guy like Kenny Wallace, for instance. Look at what has Kenny meant to that UMP racing scene? Because he seems like one of those guys. I don't see Kenny. Well, I ain't gonna say I don't see Kenny Wallace motherfucking another guy, because he probably has in his lifetime. And on camera personalities versus off camera personalities can be very different sometimes. I try to be very authentic, so there's no difference. But what was if everybody was acting like Kenny? Would it be a little different?
Yeah, probably, because Kenny's
he's the bright guy. He's always let's do it, you know.
Yeah, he is. He is. He's. I don't. Me and Kenny's good buddies, and I like Kenny, and I mean, yeah, he's always there to put a smile on your face. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think a guy like you and Kenny could definitely make changes over there in that department for sure.
Yeah, well, we try to show people you can be friends and have fun, but not everybody wants to do the same.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I like joking. I like having fun. I mean, you know, you could ask Kenny how many times I've stole his steering wheel from him, or his gloves, or his helmet. You know, that's me in the pits. That's the kind of shit that I like to do. You know, I've put a guy's bicycle on top of his trailer at the end of the night. You know, we've taken we've taken tires off of four-wheelers, took the back tires off the back and put them on the front, and put the front tires on the back. I mean, that's the kind of fun shit that we like to have.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I mean,
yeah,
at least I guess, you know, guys like you and Kenny can get a voice out there and maybe lead it a little bit different of a way. It is very competitive. Like I said, I believe it's that competitive element. I believe it's those guys saying, "Don't talk to that guy, or he'll beat us," you know, and that just
right.
It starts from there, and it develops, you know. So anytime you try to have a funny joke or something like that, it's taken seriously, because the underbelly lining is he's trying to fuck you on the racetrack. Don't be his buddy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's in, like I said, that's in all forms nowadays. I mean, now that I've been in the late models a little bit, you know, I mean, that late model world, it's, my goodness, that shit's in depth and cutthroat and everything else too. You know, I mean, it's,
National seems it's a little, you know, you got your clicks. The clicks are just a little bigger, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. So what would be the biggest jump on that late model? And are you still running that 33, or are you switching it up with this 24H? What are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm still going to run the 33. We're going to put a schedule together like we did last year, and you know, run around here, around the Midwest. And then when I'm not doing that, then that's kind of what the 24H late model is for me to, you know, kind of venture out locally a little more and just, you know, stay fresh with the late model, plus just try to keep learning. I mean, because, I mean, we all know what that late model deal, it's, I mean, you're learning something with everything every single night. I mean, at least I am, you know, I mean, being new in it. But yeah, I mean, so the 24H, you know, that was, that's the late model I have with Josh Carroll. And me and him talked about it, and we had the other mod together. And that we just kind of decided, once this, you know, this 33 deal came about, we just kind of decided that would probably be better to.
What is it? What's the combo on it? When I say combo in late model racing, it's chassis, engine, shocks.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're trying to. It's a rocket, just like the 33 car. It's an XR1, just like the 33 car. We do have different motor. We have a Mullins motor in the 24H, and the 33 car has Durham engines. But the Durham engines are Ford, and then the Mullins motor's LS. So.
And then what about shocks?
The shocks, we're gonna try to keep everything as close to the same as possible, just so everything is close to the same for me.
Which
and
is
for every
Bilstein, Penske, homemade. What do you got? Ibot?
The majority of it is, I mean, between Integra and Fox.
Okay.
Yes, Integra and the Fox stuff. I mean, that's the majority of the stuff that we usually run. So, I mean, you know, with the 24H, obviously we're just trying to build upon everything right now. You know, so we've got to come up with some more stuff. So that's just kind of all in the process. But yeah, we just really decided, you know, to do this late model deal, you know, with the 24H just in the middle of this past year, and like I said, just to really get me more seat time in the late model to to be better in
ready.
The 24/8 and the 33 when I'm running the 33. For the Lampley family and Cordy. So, yeah, it's just kind of a hand in hand deal. And then the modified that I had at the Dome. Obviously, that's my own personal stuff that I just finally put back together since we got rid of the other mods. So, and it's a new impressive car. So, yeah, I mean, we're just, like I said, I mean, we're kind of learning all over again, because the impressive car, it's a new design car, and it's kind of got a lot of new stuff on it, and then the late model world's all new for us. So it's kind of like we're all going back to school and all learning again. I mean, it's
right. And you got a race to learn. What are you gonna? What is your schedule? Are you doing any Florida, any Vado, anything special?
As of right now, we don't have nothing for that. I may go down. I like to go snowmobiling, so that's something that, I mean, some people know that about me. Some people don't. I'm one of them that nobody likes. I love winter. I love winter. I love snow.
Yeah, nobody likes that. You know that.
Yeah, that's my other hobby is snowmobiling. So I love snowmobiling, and my boy Brett, he loves snowmobiling, and we usually go up. We usually try to get a group of guys to go up. We usually do a family trip. So that's kind of what we like to do. That's what.
No racing the snowmobiles?
No, we don't race. We go to unwind and relax and have fun. That's what we like to do.
Okay, I'm just curious. I was just curious. I didn't know. I mean, it's a real thing. I mean, they race them, so.
Oh yeah, no, we've been up to see the racetrack, like up there in Eagle River, Wisconsin. I mean, I still have yet to ever go watch the races. In like the Bowers, I don't know if you know the Bowers from up there in Michigan and stuff. There's some of them that race the snowmobiles, and they've invited us up to watch, and it'd be fun to do that once, to go watch at least. But no, we like to go up and just log some miles, and just ride and have fun. It's just something I've always done. I've done since late teenager years, and I've just always done it. So it's just something that we've always loved to do, that I've always loved to do. And, I've got my kids into it, my wife, and, we've done several family trips. And so that's what, everybody always hounds me about going to Florida. And I always, I just kind of always say, we race from March until hell now with the Dome race, December. There's not a lot of off time no more. So what little bit of off time we do get, I like to do a little something different once in a while.
Right.
So, and I mean, my job, I mean, we ain't talked about my job at all, but, with my job is very demanding on hours. We work a lot of hours in the farming, so I mean, a normal average salary work year is, say 2,080 hours or something. 2,080 hours, that's a normal like salary work year. And, we, on an average, we probably usually work 2,300 to 2,500 hours a year. So in the springtime and in the fall time,
that's 48 hours a week average, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in the springtime and the fall, when we're planting and we're harvesting, I mean, there's times that it'll go weeks and I don't even see the race cars except for when I go to the racetrack and race. The boys and the other couple guys that I have, I've had a group of guys with me now that's been with me since basically 2010. between my boys and then a few of the other guys, with Brandon and Bob and Drew.
Oh, we lost him. Hold on. We're getting him back. Oh, sorry about that. Don't know how that went down.
Yes, sir.
And the boys continue. Sorry, at an issue.
Yeah. So, we, like I said, we've all been together since 2010. So we've got a pretty tight knit bunch, and I totally, in the springtime and into fall time, I pretty much turn everything over to them guys to where they take care of everything. I obviously live right here where the race cars are, and I can come over when I get home at 9 or 10 o'clock at night and check on stuff. But there's a lot of times that that it'll be 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, till we get a rain day or something, till I actually get a day to come over into the shop and actually screw around. So, it's
hard to maybe think about traveling Nevada or anywhere to race when you got that,
Yeah, so I mean that's just something that a lot of people, well, you go race all the time, blah blah blah. Well, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes with work, and I mean we all have, one guy, Bob, he's an older retired guy that's been with me, but he's the only one that's retired. I mean, myself and both my boys, we have, full-time jobs, and Brandon has a full-time job. Drew has a full-time job. We all have full-time jobs. And so, I mean, it's more of a hobby for us, but we treat it as a second job and the love of racing. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hours get spent at work, and I mean, I wish it didn't have to be that way, but unfortunately, we all got to have jobs to live. So,
well, you are kind of lucky being in Illinois. The Illinois racing scene is somewhat. I said Illinois. I'm sorry. I know you may get offended, but the Illinois racing scene kind of reminds me of the Pennsylvania sprint car scene, where you can have a job and on the weekends race for a decent amount of money at your regional tracks within a few hours.
Yeah. I mean, we've got, where I'm located, right where I live right here, hell, we've got one, two, three, four. We've got 4 tracks right now that are within 1 hour from me. And it would be 5 if Belleville was open.
It's reopening, you know that, right? I mean,
yeah, it's supposed to. Yep. And I mean, we used to have Mount Vernon. We used to have Greenville. So I mean,
Crown Point.
7 racetracks that are within an hour, and then then you venture out to an hour and a half, and I mean, you can add in Macon, Jacksonville, Lincoln. I mean, they're just, and then then you can venture out to 2.5 hours, and you got Farmer City and Fairbury and Spoon River. Paducah's kind of in that. I mean, Paducah's a little bit farther, and I mean, you're right. We've got tons of racetracks. Not tons, but we've got a couple handfuls of racetracks that's close to us that we can go to and get to on the weekends without a problem. And
you got the late model with Mars, and then that American Modified series I think y'all had for a little bit or something like that.
Yeah, we did. It's not here no more. We kind of got the Mars series with the Modified now,
right?
And the late model, and then obviously the Summer National deal. I mean, that's a lot right here in the Illinois region too.
But then y'all got that big modified race happening. What is that? Is that Fairbury? What is it called? Modified Mania or something like that?
Well, we Modified Mania is at Granite City, which is just a half hour away from me. That's that's a weekly track that we go to a lot.
What was the
Which
one
they
that's
didn't
got
really,
that 20K this year or 15K? One
that's
of the two.
fair. That's
Okay.
Fairbury.
Okay. And what's that called?
Yeah, Fairbury's the one having the 20,000. Which Fairbury's had. They've always had the Labor Day swing for us modifieds, which has been 10 for. Well, I mean, it was 10, 10, 10, 10. Then they backed it off to 5, and a couple of years, I think. I mean, hell, I won that one 3 or 4 years in a row. The 10,000, and that's what Matt Curl told me. He says, "God damn, I got to break it up to 2 5s just so somebody else can have a chance at winning."
Well, yeah, and that's a pretty crazy weekend, because if you think about it, just looking at schedules right now, the Modified Mania at Fairbury, that's the weekend before the 100K at Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Yeah,
you got 2 weekends. There are some pretty big modified payouts.
Yepers. Yep.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, when we put a modified schedule together too, I mean, like I said, I do like to run around home in the local racetracks and support the local tracks.
And you're on a farm. I mean, you just talked that you're working 48 hours a week on average, so that's a big reason.
Yeah. But we can put modified schedules together that, we can damn near race for, 1,000, 1,500 within that time frame, like I was talking about, dang near every weekend, every other weekend. There's always a little something going on somewhere, which, I mean, it's not 5s and 10,000s to wins, but, the 1,000, 1,500, I mean, it's what we got to race for. So, I mean, that's what we got.
Right. Well, and you're doing it because you have to, almost,
Right.
I mean,
well, I mean, it's that or stay at home.
Right. And then you get called a cherry picker, huh?
Yeah. I've been called that for quite some time now. Yeah. Which that's okay. That's what I always tell everybody. I like cherries. It's all good.
Hey, you where were they at when you were cherry picking the wall at Gateway last week, racing for the win?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Where were they?
Yeah,
at the trailer watching.
Yeah, that's what I say. I like cherries, so I'll pick that tree whenever I can and eat them cherries.
Well, I think this year there is some big modified events, and it's going to be hard to pick cherries on some of these marquee events. There is a lot.
Oh yeah. Yep, for sure.
So.
For sure, yeah. I always say, I mean, hey, there ain't never no race that's easy. I mean, everything's got to, you as a driver got to do everything right. The car's got to stay together. The motor's got to stay running. All the pieces got to stay on the car. The tires all got to keep air, and you got to finish the race. I mean, everything's. Ain't none of them easy.
Right.
I don't care if it's a local show that pays 600 to win or a 10,000 to win show. I like to treat every single one of them like they mean something, and they could be the last, because you just never know.
Yeah, you never do.
You never know. I mean, look at what happened to Nick and his dad and his crew guy, a couple years ago, traveling up the road. I mean, you never know when something like that has nothing to do with their fault, nothing to do with anything, is somebody else's ordeal, and I mean, it can ruin your whole life forever. I mean.
Or like a a COVID deal where they all of a sudden tell everyone to go inside and don't go out.
Yeah. I mean, it just.
And that's a great point to kind of pirouette with that whole click shit too.
Yeah, it just You never know. I always treat everyone that, I mean, hell, I could, I ran second at the Dome. I mean, I surely don't want nothing to happen, but you never know. Something could happen and I could never race again. You know, I mean, like I said, I don't anticipate that happen. I don't want that to happen. I hope that don't happen, but
you act as if it can.
Never know. Exactly. That's right. And that's, I mean, that's how I like to, that's how I like to live. That's why I treat every win special. I treat every night we go, every time we spend time at the racetrack, on the way to the racetrack, whatever, I like to say we can all cherish every minute that we all spend together, because that's what it's all about, really. I mean,
right. End of the day, even if, I bet you some of these hate and click people, if like some outsider from the racing world came in and had a problem with them, they would probably have their back. They always make that joke with human beings, like when we have wars between countries, they're like, well, if aliens showed up, we'd all go up against them. It wouldn't be USA versus Russia. Hell, USA versus Russia would be joining hands to kick the aliens' ass. It's just we never get that reality sense or that style of threat, to realize that.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of the same concept in appreciating life and moments and people. Don't forget about them and then they're gone. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. And I mean, the older you get, the older people get, I mean, the more people think about stuff like that, know, because I mean, I know I do, I mean. Right. Well, you could be that way just by life experiences. Like my dad died at a young age. My mom did too. Somebody like a Drake Troutman last night, his dad died at 16. I mean, you in those experiences, you learn to appreciate the people while they're there, because you've had someone important leave. Yeah. I mean, I lost my mom, I lost my mom. She was 40 when and I lost her, and I had to help, raise my sister, because she was, right at high school yet, but, I had to help raise her and get her through school the rest of the way, and, amongst take care of my kids too, and get her settled and off on the right path in life, so I mean, she knew what she was doing because she was old enough, but, I still had to be there because, we both lost our mom, and so, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff in life people just don't know about everybody. Right. And we could tell them if you turn the corner, you're going to fall off the cliff, but sometimes they have to fall to figure it out. Yes. You're exactly right. That's the funny part. Exactly right. Just like the World of Outlaws in the sprint cars. I said, be nice to Brad or Kyle, or they're going to come at you. Now they're coming. Try to tell them. Yep. Try to tell them. But anyway, we've had you here for 2 hours. I don't need to keep you up anymore. I don't want to ruin your life. So. He ain't ruining my life. It's been joyful talking to you. I mean, I've known you. I've seen you before. I don't think we've ever really talked and bullshitted, but yeah, it's been good. I think the first year to the Dome, you destroyed your car, and I walked over and talked to you about it, but that was the last time, I think. I think you destroyed the car. Not sure. But that's not hard to do at the Dome. Like you said, I think this year's this year's track was the best, because every year it feels like there's a modified four wheels off the ground breaking a frame in half. And that didn't happen this year. Right. So. Yeah, and and that's another event there that, there's so many people that talk negative about it and rough and tearing this up and tearing that up. But you know what? I mean, I don't know. I love it. I mean, but, I'm so close to it. I mean, I don't say I got to love it, but, I'm only a half hour away from there. But it's such a
cool, unique event. I feel like that it's really cool to be a part of. I really enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, Fager was talking about next year's the last year on the contract. Hopefully that's fixed. Even if it ain't fixed, I'd love to see wing 410s in that bitch. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Wing
Yeah,
410s, not no non-wing shit. I want to see a car hit 110 miles an hour and sling that motherfucker.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know much about the contract. That's what I've heard a couple of different people talking about that over the last two or 3 days or so, but I've never heard much about that. I mean, probably really the only ones that really know facts is probably Cody,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, I mean, it's like I said, I mean, just like I said when they interviewed me, I'll be there. I mean, I'll be there no matter what to support the event. Just like I said, I like supporting my local tracks. I mean, like I said, that I consider that a local track to me, but it's just it's just something, I mean, for me growing up right here, going to the Dome for monster trucks, for motocross races, for Rams football, for the Battlehawks football that we have now, to me, myself, being able to go to the Dome and race inside under the lights. When I was a kid, like I said, monster trucks and motocross and stuff, I always had, you always had your favorites, the Gravedigger and Bigfoot and,
Ricky
like
Carmichael.
back in the day, Ricky Carmichael, he was, like the hero back when
James
I
Bubba
was young
Stewart
going.
killed his ass. Bubba Stewart destroyed him, though.
Yeah, and I mean, now I get to go do that and all, just to think and feel there's all them kids up there looking down upon
Right.
all of us the same way that I used to look down upon all of them, and being at the Dome at this big, special, crazy place, I mean, it's just so cool. I mean, and, like, I mean, we didn't say nothing about that, but, we have 9 grandkids between me and my wife, between my kids and her kids. And, it's really cool seeing the grandkids, how excited they get about the Dome, cause it's a different, it's a unique event that it's just different from the normal races. But, even all the grandkids love, all the normal races too. And that's another thing that is really over the last, handful of years that has kept me around home racing more than anything, is just so that all the grandkids can go to the races, because they love going to watch Papa race.
Right.
So I mean, that's just, there's special moments in life, and some of them special moments you just like to relive and relive and relive and relive, and that's some of them special moments is watching your grandkids all run across the racetrack to get in the victory lane with you. I mean, that's something that you just can't you can't put a price on that. You can't there's no explanation of the feelings that gives you. I mean, it's some of the coolest feelings there is.
Yeah, and like you were saying, that's something you get to have at the Dome and on that big stage.
Yep.
It would suck to lose that stage. I think that's why you got to bring wing 410s in there, Mike. I think the only way to keep that going, no matter what remodeling or development they do to there that may change the idea of having it anymore, because that's kind of the idea I'm hearing, because they're putting a lot of money into it for bigger other things, is you got to become that bigger other thing. Like you said, Monster Jam, Supercross, this is happening in all these domes where the NFL teams play, but
Right.
They're able to do that because it brings this certain amount of fans to make it viable, to make it a thing. And I think, that Dome was probably half full. I think it's a 80 or 65,000 seat, 70,000-ish seat stadium, it's maxed out with the fendered crowd. If you brought those wing fucking not midgets, not non-wing, the winged sprint cars, 410s to that bitch, there's another 30,000 people that will be there. Because I go to the World 100 and I go to the King's Row every year, and there's about 30,000 people at each, and they're about all different. Right. So if you was able to fill that dome with an event, I think that's how you can take what's happening there and do it there more in a more modern setting, and even potentially take it elsewhere if you need it. You got to be able to fill it, though. You got to be able to fill it. That's my point. You got to be able to fill these domes to have those types of events.
Yeah, well, let's just hope that they're proving that they can, with track prep and stuff that they're doing, that they can give us a good racing service like they did this year, and maybe things like that'll come in the future. I mean, hell, who knows? I mean, it'd be cool to see. Go ahead. It'd definitely be cool to see.
I've had the joke last couple of months for dome events doing fire retardant wood tracks like X Games with the banking. Straight up. That way you kill the dust. You don't have to worry about dust. And they started racing on wood, so hey, it can't be that much different.
Right. Huh.
And that could be a track that you could deconstruct and reconstruct and put on a 18-wheeler and travel with. Put it in all the domes you want. But that's me being stupid and crazy, but that just an idea.
Yeah.
No reaction. You laughed. It's all right. It's all right. I'm white, Mike. You can blame me. It's okay. I'm white. You could say it's my fault for even thinking that. Patriarchy is real.
Hey, when I say it, I'll say that damn Chaz, he wasn't so stupid after all.
Oh yeah, if we see it,
he was on to something.
Well, I actually, back in my promoting days, I contacted Feld Entertainment, which is the Feld Entertainment owned by Disney. They own all of the Monster Jam, Supercross. They own AMA. It's crazy how much, and then back to me looking into things, it's crazy how much some of these places own everything. Like,
right.
That's when I started realizing who Carlyle Group is, who owns Disney and all this stuff, who BlackRock is. BlackRock is on Fox News and CNN now. I was talking about BlackRock 5 years ago. There's some entities out here that are very powerful, very powerful in the world. I'm sure you being a farmer guy, you've got to learn a few.
Yeah.
But okay.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk. We'll stop talking. We'll get canceled. We can't talk anymore. Can't talk anymore. All righty then. Well, we can get you out of here now. You're not gonna be mad.
No, hell no, I'm not mad, buddy. It's been fun. Like I said, it's been fun. You ever get over into this area, and love to come show you the shop. And
there's a lot of Fager mentioned this Highland Speedway. He said it's like a paperclip high bank that sounds like a badass racetrack.
Yeah, that's right here. That's right here in my backyard. Really, I mean, I could damn near. I mean, it's across town, but that's right here where I live. That's where I cut my teeth at, is Highland.
I'll tell you what. If we really want to get some views, we could get World of Outlaw views with a local show. You want some views? Pull an old junker out of the backwoods and let me drive a fucking sidecar. Have the Chaz out there racing. I got some laps in an IMCA car down there in Arizona. I mean, it was my first race ever, pretty much. But they've been doing a 24-hour race here. It's this past year was the second year they did a 24-hour race, and you got to get, I think it's 4 different drivers, 4 or 5 different guys or women, whatever. You just got to have 4 or 5 different drivers. You're misunderstanding me, Mike. I'm talking about coming over there and putting it on your ass. I'm not talking about doing some 24-hour gimmick. This ain't no XR show. I'm talking about coming over there and sending your ass back to the tractor where you belong. That's what I'm talking about doing. No, I'm just playing.
I'd love it. Come on, bring it.
If you got a backup rolling around, I'll show you how to get around the track.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying I got a backup for you right now, but we could probably come up with something for you.
I'll tell you what, Mike. I'll take a damn 2008 GRT and show you how to get around the top side of any track. No, I'm just playing. Z-Link me. Z-Link me. No, I'm just playing.
No, it'd be.
But
yeah,
that's what I'm just saying. We could bring. I'm just saying, if that was a reality, we could be. Hey, bring the eyes right there. Kyle Larson's watching that race, guaranteed.
right. Yeah, but no, Highland is. I mean, Highland is doing a. They've been doing a fantastic job. I mean, on the promoting side of it, everything they've been doing's been definitely on the uphill. That's for sure. And now they've got several bigger races this year.
He was saying Summer Nationals or a World Outlaw race, World Outlaw late models.
World Outlaw late model race, and they got a few mod money shows, and they got a few late model. They got Summer National race and a couple Mars races, and I mean they're trying. They're really trying. I mean,
he said he don't know where they're going to fit the people though. He's like, I don't know where they're going to sit people for an outlaw race.
Right. Well, I think, and I don't know. I don't know, but I thought I've been told that I think they're either putting up some more stands for permanent, or they're going to bring some
temporary
stands in. But I'm really thinking they're bringing some stands in to be more permanent for like the pits, the pit stands, because Highland's one of them places that they just don't have no
room.
They don't have no pit stands. It's everybody from the pits has got to go up to the regular general admission stands to be able to sit and watch the races. And on them bigger shows, there's not enough room for all the people in the pits to go up into the grandstands. It gets really congested at that point in time. So I think from, like I said, you can't quote me, but I think from what I've heard is they're talking about bringing more stands in for the pits to accommodate all the pit people, and I think that's on the permanent side. So, I'm really happy for them. I mean, they've been busting their butt, and then a buddy of mine that I actually have the car with, the 24H late model, Josh Carroll, he's took over the Brownstown racetrack, Brownstown, Illinois, and he's done major upgrades to it. I mean, just gave the whole place a new facelift, and I mean, it's always been a real racy racetrack. But I mean, he's gave that place a whole facelift now, and he's been, trying to put on a lot more shows. This was just his first year this past year, so that's, I mean. And then obviously everybody knows Peevely, and then we got Granite City, and
Peoria.
We got some good racetracks right here around the area. I mean,
you're making me feel like I need to, just sleep in the car and be in Illinois for a month.
Yeah, I mean there's some good racetracks around here. That's
I've only personally been to Granite City and Fairbury. I tried to attend a race at, I can't remember. I don't think it was LaSalle. Maybe it was LaSalle, but it was a little too late. I haven't got to get to Farmer City. These other ones, I heard Spoon River's like one of the best racetracks in the country.
Yeah. I mean, Spoon River, it's a good track. Yes. It's not one of my favorites because I don't know. It's just one of them places that's had my number. I don't know, and I've won a race. I've won a race there, and I should have won a couple more. It's just not somewhere I go to a whole lot. Just maybe once or twice a year if we get there for a couple of the specials. But I don't. It's just one of them places that's it just always had my number. I just ain't. Well,
they got some big late model races, so maybe in the late model you have better luck. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just, and I blame it all on me. I mean, I blame it all on me. I don't think it's got nothing to do with the cars, the setups, nothing like that. It's just, I have just, me, myself, and I have just never learned how to race that racetrack right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, if I knew, I'd fix it, but it's one of them places I've just never learned how to race right. And that's, I mean, that's weird for me to say, because I'm usually pretty good, I'm usually pretty good at adapting to all them places like that. But that place has just had my number for some reason. I don't know why.
The kryptonite.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's just been one of them places. But
okay.
Yeah, no, we got a bunch of good racetracks here around this area here. You could definitely come watch some good racing. I'm telling you that.
All right. Well, I guess we will get you out of here. 2 hours and 30 minutes. I said it like an hour ago. We should get you out of here. But anything else you want to say? Do you want to send a prayer out to the pitting area of UMP again, or is there anything we can do about it?
Not really. I mean, I wouldn't mind just thanking some of the people that helped me and has been along through the way. I mean, that's, I mean, you always got to take care of all the people that take care of you. So, I mean, unless you need to get off, but otherwise I wouldn't mind naming some of these people.
Go. No. You go ahead. Yeah. You got 9 grandkids to thank. I mean, this is going to be a minute. Let me get a drink. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. You got to thank the wife and the kids and all the grandkids. I mean, we all know how much time it takes and, everything. I mean, most of the time the kids all got to come to the race shop to see Grandpa, so definitely got to thank all them and, the wife for letting me do everything I do. And then my boys for all the help that they do, and Bob and Drew and Brandon and Tony and, a couple of the other owners that I had, Craig, had Craig Maskell. I drove for him for some years and had a lot of success, and drove for my brother-in-laws, Brad Steinkenny and Ken Cady, drove for them guys and had a lot of success with them. And now I got, Steve Lampley and Randy Cordy. I got to thank Randy. I've known Randy growing up right here in Highland all my life, and now to get to, watch him all them years, and then now kind of team up with him and him help me with the late model, so I got to, thank all them guys and then Josh Carroll, I got to thank him and for coming with me and, just like I said, I mean, being a partner in this deal, 'cause I mean, we all know it's crazy expensive, so every bit of help that you get from anybody helps, so, and then Severs and JCB, Case IH, Tucker's Automotive, Stutz Excavating, my bosses with Render Farms for, them putting up with me leaving all the time when I should be farming, but, they've been wonderful ever since I've worked for them, with the racing. Aggressive graphics. They always keep my cars looking good all the time. Summit Racing Equipment, Jim Greenleaf, big supporters. Midwest Excavating. I got to give a good shout out to my buddy Chuck Wagon Food Service. If you ever see the Chuck Wagon at any of the racetracks, I suggest you go get you something from Jeff and Carrie, because they got some of the best food at the racetracks there is. They're
nice.
They're usually at Fairbury for all them big specials. So if you get over on the back straightaway, they'll be over there. Mullins Race Engines, Durham Engines, Willie's Carbs and Dyno. Another good friend that's come aboard and partner up is Ted Brown with Ted and Pam, Quality Paint and Auto. Rocket XR1 late models, Impressive Mods, Bulldog Rear Ends, Broadway Bar and Grill, Ethel's Taverns. That's some of our establishments we go to after the races. Steve Schmidt and Chad Weirs with Weirs Machine. Always a phone call away. Great parts he builds. Got to give them guys a big shout out because they do a lot for us racers. And great people also. So I really appreciate them guys. Randy LaJoy with the LaJoya Seating, Tom Cams, Billy Carroll. A lot of these people that I'm naming are just friendships that we have created through partnerships and
I was about to say, to know them all off the top of your head, they had to have been around for a while. Yeah,
and that's one thing that I've always said is, the friendships to me, last way more than the partnerships do, because I mean, some of the friendships, they go way deeper than products and race cars and anything else,
Right. You see some of these younger guys, they are just friends with someone just for their money. They're not necessarily friends with them.
Right. Yep. And I'm close. I got Jones Racing Products, Quick Car Racing Products, Jericho Transmissions, Renegade Fuels, and another one of my dear friends that there again, friendships is more than anything, is Pat Fagan with Fast Shafts. I mean, me and Pat's been together for many years. He's been a partner of mine, supporter of me forever, and he's a dear friend to myself, my wife, and all my kids. I mean, it's just one of them, like I said, them friendships that's just lasted forever, and that them are the things that we'll never forget and that'll go way beyond the racing world, even after the racing. So
the craziest one you named was Summit. How are you buddies with Kenny Wallace? He's Jegs. Isn't there, how does that work?
Well, I mean, me and Kenny's got to have a little rival between the two of us.
That's what I'm saying. If I was Summit and Jegs, I'd be playing that.
Yeah, he's got Jegs and I got Summit. I mean, maybe I need to hit my buddy up and try to get me a Summit car, and yeah, no, it's all
it's
good.
Big in drag racing,
Summit,
drag racing, you got the Summit car and you got the Jegs car, and it's always been like a rivalry.
Right, yeah. No, Summit and Jim Greenleaf, I mean, they came aboard, they came aboard the racing scene here, several years ago now, but ever since they've been, in the area with the local dirt racing, with the Summer Nationals, and I think that's where they originally started, is with, the modified Summit Summer National Series, and just ever since then, me and Jim, we formed that relationship with each other, and it's just carried on through the years, and has just became better and better and bigger and bigger, and it just, there's another one of, like you said, like we talked about, just another one of them friendships,
right.
that's just carried on. So, like I said, it's just, I really like and I really enjoy all that along with the racing. I mean, because we make friends,
Right. Well, it's a guy like me, I'm a shoestring budget guy. Over the years, I've traveled the country in my car. I've slept in it 9 months out of the 12, just to do all this stuff. And some of the best friendships of all ain't necessarily monetization based. They're more so people who are like, hey, man, if you can get to the track, you could stay in my camper. Or, hey, man, we can hang out here, and then you get to know people and you get to learn people. And it's those relationships that for people who were there when other people weren't, I kind of think that's why we like racing so much in a weird psychological way. is it's one of those things in the world that as long as you're there for it, it's there for you in a way.
Right.
You know, and that's hard to find in people. So I think a lot of people relate to racing or any kind of hobby because it's something that's reliable. As long as you're attendant, it's attendant for you. But in being in that, you find people who are almost the exact same way as the sport.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's just like this year. I mean, you know, my shop's right here in Highland, and, you know, talking about this year, Mike Marlar's little brother, Skylar Marlar. You know, I didn't necessarily know him. I knew Mike Marlar, you know, but I didn't know his brother. And they came up and raced at, they came up here and raced at Farmer City, I believe, and then they went to Peevely, and they was having a rough time, and they was having some problems, and I got talking to them down at Peevely, and I said, why don't you guys bring your shit to my shop, and you can stay at my shop, and you can unload, and, you know, I'll help you tomorrow, go through shit and get shit right. They was going to Fairbury for the big race at Fairbury, and, you know, hell, this was, I forget what day it was, but we was actually racing at Highland that next night, and they didn't even know nothing about Highland racing, you know, and I was like, well, just come to my shop and stay here, and, you know, we'll help you work on your car, get it straightened back out, and then they ended up racing at Highland, and I won, and I think he ended up running third, I think. So he was tickled pink, you know, and then we went ahead and went on up to Fairbury together, and, you know, and I mean, I didn't really know him. He didn't really know me, but, you know, there again, it's a friendship. And,
right. It develops.
You know, and now, you know, I mean, I'm not saying we talk every day or actually every week, but, you know, there's sometimes we'll talk 3 or 4 times a week, and there's other times we won't talk for 2 weeks, you know, or 3 weeks in a row. But I do know that there's another friendship that we gained,
right.
You know, I mean,
if you show up on his side of town and need a place to park your stuff and stay, you can hit him up and vice versa.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. For sure. I mean,
because you have a relationship.
Yep. It was really cool meeting him and the 2 guys that was with him that was helping him. I mean, it was just, like I said, I mean, it was good times. I mean, I enjoy helping. I mean, I enjoy helping people. I help a lot of the local people around here. I help them if they need help. I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy watching people run good.
Right. You're natural. I think a lot of people in their natural human state are actually very giving. You know, we got a conscious. Right. I think that it's all this other shit that kind of puts these things into our conscious that keeps us from being so conglomerate in a way. You know, it's those barriers. But yeah, I mean, if people were more maybe like Mike Harrison, you know, you could have elite and lethal guys hanging out again. No, I'm just playing, but
right, yeah. Hey, I'm all good. My door's open.
Okay. Well, we'll let you go. I said we'll let you go 20 minutes ago now because you had 25 minutes of damn sponsors and people, you know, but I mean, you're racing somehow. I mean, you're on the damn tractor, you know, 48 hours a week racing still. It's unbelievable in a way, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And that's the average. I'm sure there's times you're not even on it as much. So there's some weeks you're on it 80 hours. You know, I mean, that's something that's not recognized enough, you know, and that's why I pull for me personally. I feel like over the last 5 to 6 years, I tried to represent the local racers, the lower budget guys, the guys who punch a fucking time clock. You know, I really love the late model modified scene because when I walk through the pitting area, I see guys working, you know, that sprint car scene. If you was to tabulate the top guys in sprint car racing, I don't know how many of them have actually punched a time clock in their life, who have actually had to actually worked a day. But that's co-trickle syndrome. You know, that's where it's co-trickle syndrome. That's what they've learned now for 30 years. But that modified late model pitting area scene is the Steve Kinzers, the Sammy Swindells, the Doug Wolfgangs, the old icon of the sprint car world, and who actually work. And just because you got to work a job and go race, you know, don't mean you're less talented than the greatest drivers in the world. You know, that's another thing. I think talent is, you cannot teach it. No matter how much these coaches or practice guys or parts house people tell these rich kids that you just need to go out there and get laps and you'll get better. Motherfucker, I watched Tim Tebow pray to God in practice and be celibate, and he could never throw the ball better than a drunk Tom Brady. That's talent, you know, and I don't think you could teach that. So a guy in racing like your position, or another guy who's maybe not in as a privileged position, could be just as good as any of these guys in the racing world. This racing world's not like other sports. We don't all get to go out there and throw the same football.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You know, and there's, I mean, one that I forgot, but you know, AFCO Racing Products. I mean, I've been with AFCO since, I think 2014 too, and there's another friendship there with Ben Baker that I created, you know, that we created, you know, ever since I've been with them. And, you know, like I said, I mean, me and Ben has been super friends, and you know, it's even trickled down to his boy now. You know, his boy, when he's at the racetrack, he comes up and hangs out with us, and you know, just like his dad has over the years. And it's, you know, I mean, when me and Ben first got together, I mean, his boy was just little, you know, just like my kids were. And now Ben, you know, is buddies with my boys, and I'm buddies with his boys. And, you know, it's just, that's the true racing part that I love. It's just, I mean, you know, and hell, you know, now you, like I said, I mean, I never really talked to you before. I mean, I knew who you was and would see you every now and then.
You probably heard a lot of shit talking, I'm sure, being in Illinois.
Yeah, not very often seeing you, but, you know, now, I mean, hell, we can bullshit at the racetrack like we're, you know, like we know each other.
Right. Well, and more people need to do that. Like I said, that UMP pitting area, man, that's the top of the line. Might be a little below you know, the micro scene. But I've been in a lot of national late model pitting areas, you know, even though, you know, this is the thing about the national late model scene. During racing time, it is fuck you. You know, you could be in the sprint car world, guys park next to one another, hang out and talk and chit chat. Late model people park next to one another, it is fuck you. You know, I don't give a damn what you're doing. You ain't. But when that checkered flag does fall and people load their shit up, it kind of mellows out. You know, it does kind of
loosens up a little bit.
Right, but in the modified UMP scene that I witnessed, that don't change. It's fuck you from the beginning of the night until I don't see you next week. You know.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a scene like that, Mike. And I know that, like I said, I think that you and Kenny Wallace could help that scene. You just you got voices, you know, just got to use them, I think, a little. Maybe this will help. I don't know. Maybe they'll hear this, a bunch of people, and they'll think about it differently.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's something me and Kenny can do to help, I'd love to.
You are a Kinzer, you know, of that scene. You're a Swindell. You're a Scott Bloomquist of the Illinois modified scene. You are that guy that people look up to, you know. So I think that your voice does carry weight.
Yeah, well, maybe we started tonight. Who knows?
All right. I won't drag you out anymore. I'm trying to inspire you, Mike. I'm trying to inspire you every week. You could be
I'm listening. I'm
just saying that pitting area just shocked me. It just shocked me.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I know what you mean.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on. It is midnight. I guess you got to do cornrows tomorrow. What do you got to do tomorrow? When you got to get up?
No, I'm actually nope. I actually got a text. We all got a text message, work text message that we don't have to report back to work until Wednesday. So
time to go snowmobiling, loading up and heading out, huh?
Yeah, but there's no snow right now, so I can't. Or I probably would. Damn it.
That is true. It's weird, ain't it? It's kind of warm.
Yeah,
it is kind of warm.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is, and there ain't no good snow right now. They're talking maybe that like the 28th. They're talking a big storm up north, but anything can happen between now and then. But yeah, no, we've got. I've been instructed by the wife that we've got some few Christmas items we need to go after tomorrow for a few of the grandkids. So I think I'm probably going to be doing a little honeydews tomorrow, and then Saturday I'm going to wash the 2 cars up. We've got the tires all washed from the dome and most of the bodies off the cars and got them washed, but I need to get the cars themselves washed yet, and got the trailer all emptied out, and we're about ready. I just need to get these 2 cars ready, and then we'll be ready for chop, cut, and rebuild, and get them ready to go again. So okay. I'm gonna have a few days off, but I'm gonna be busy trying to get the shop back into shape and the cars ready to go, and then Christmas on top of it. So
okay,
have a much needed break, but we're still going to be busy.
Yeah, and who knows with this snow? Farmer's Almanac. I kind of think that the man-made calendar's off. I think the seasons have shifted. We don't know everything.
Yeah,
but all right. Well, thanks for calling in. I mean, was cool.
No, I appreciate you having me.
All right, Mike. Well, thanks for calling. Maybe we'll make some differences here. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, you get around this area and you come by and say hey. So.
Oh, I'm searching for a ride now. My goal is to send that 24H into the woods next year.
Hell yeah! Come on, bring it.
All right. Thanks for calling, man.
All right, bud. We'll see you.
All right. And that was Mike Harrison, 8-time UMP National Modified Champion. 8. I think it's like 630-something wins. And while he's talking, you little bitches here in the comment section are running your mouth. Dank Dank's in here. Is it really a Chaz Live without Clark? Farmers insurance is a thing. I'm sure Spike's up here talking crap. Billy Carroll's in here. Nice. Back to back. Some weekends with split chat classes. Dude, it's 11:30 p.m. in Highland, and Mike has to go farm. We just see, you can't even talk to these people. You just can't. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. I know this started. Hold on, let me end it how we started it. Start from the bottom. Now we're here. We started with the shades, hopefully educating that idiotic Asphalt late model driver that just, they don't even matter in the world. That's why I didn't want to talk about them really, but it was we had to. Regardless, though, we did get into some good conversations with Mike Harrison, the man, the myth, the legend of the upper Midwest there in Illinois. I know I say Illinois and maybe there's too much noise and maybe we got to play above the noise, but it was a good talk. There's a lot of stuff over there in that scene, like I said, that I would like to know. Maybe Mike, obviously he's a guy who sees what I see, but he's not in what we were talking about and kind of like has a side. Maybe a Mike or a Nick Hoffman does. Maybe a David Stremme has one. I don't know, but maybe what we were just talking about there, the importance, the camaraderies, the importance of appreciating life can maybe make some differences there. It's a strong scene, and it could definitely use some improvement in the social dynamic. And maybe a guy like Mike Harrison can potentially lead to the forefront there. And definitely a Kenny Wallace. Kenny Wallace is a great guy all around. Even though we have our disagreements on the NASCAR topics and the dirts and all this, Kenny Wallace is a really good guy. And I feel like two kind of leaders of that community in Mike Harrison and Kenny Wallace can make some big differences over there. Maybe the Chaz has to slide over there, not just slide into the side of the 24H off the track, but slide over there and hey, bring some light to the scene. Because I do believe that Illinois racing scene is the closest thing the late model racing scene has to that PA sprint car atmosphere. Obviously, they have a lot of cars across the country, but as far as being able to pay a lot, a little bitty cliquey community, same thing as PA, a lot of bullshit over there. That's why I'm not going back. A lot of bad characters in there causing issues. I feel like, though, the Modified's full of enough working class people that changes could be made, and it could be really beneficial for that whole entire scenario. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation. We did have the professional gaslighter shirt on. It'll take about 10 or 15 hours to make a late model or modified version. If I do that, pick one of them up. But if you like just sprint cars and racing and you like the shirt, check it out. Pick one up. We are going to be putting these shades available on the site soon as well. In fact, I sold my first pair of these shades to a person in Australia, and it just arrived today. So hopefully they enjoy the shades. Hopefully they like them. I was thinking about going to Australia. Just too much money thrown out the window. A lot of work to be done here in our own country. I sound like a politician right now. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, like the video, comment below. As always, share it around. Subscribe, very important. And be sure to put notifications always on. I know a lot of people have been saying we go live here and they don't get the notifications. You actually have to manually put notifications to all on this channel. So make sure that you do that so you do not miss anything we put out here on the Chaz. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. We will catch you next time.